These freaks are much worse than a demonic cult. They are really monsters, silk fools for which martial arts are the greatest value, irrational abomination obsessed with a thirst. These are the reviews of the most powerful clan of the world, the Reconciliation. From a building that resembled tavern, a laughter was heard. On the street, drunk men. In the meantime, real joy prevailed inside the institution. The election of the deputy head of the clan is taking place today. It is rumored that the eldest son of the Nagan, known as the Dragon of the Blue Sky, will win the victory. Do not forget about the second son, Jong Cheers, as well as about the third son, the cheerleader. A competition that will determine who deserves to become the deputy chairman of the most powerful clan. These three have impressive talent. It is no wonder if one of them holds this position. After all, they are the sons of Hanschol Frag, the leader of the clan. One of the men is talking about the youngest son of a leader. No one perceives him seriously. For all, he is just a loser who probably hid again somewhere. Men, look around, you need to behave quieter. And what? How does someone eavesdrop? The younger son is a real failure that even for compost is not suitable. These jokes have rejoiced into drunken men. Meanwhile, the new moon who listened to them seemed to be angry. He poured himself a little alcohol. The young man was attractive. He clenched his lips, thinking about what was heard in the conversation of strangers. Everyone considers the younger son of the head of the family, the deso of the cheerful, the failure. This is him. His parents were inherited by his sons, so they got the nickname Three Dragons. But the younger son is far behind them. It does not even reach the level of mediocrity. The Deso Nagan was defeated in the competition for the post of deputy head, and besides, his dents were destroyed. Sorry, our hero decides to drown his grief in a strong drink, trying to forget everything. Suddenly, a stranger approaches the young man and asks if there is a free place. The young man does not answer anything because he drew up in his reasoning. A moment later, a gray-haired man takes a place opposite. Their silence speaks more than words. The Desout is going to pour it, but the bottle is empty. Then the main decides to order 5 more bottles. Soon these bottles were emptied. The young man is so much that he lost his ability to understand something. Suddenly a stranger starts a strange story. The young guy looked at a stranger in a question. Because he was drunk, his ears did not immediately catch the words. The stranger shares that 8 years ago the bandits killed his wife and child. Then he was covered by unbearable pain and deep sadness. Our hero sees in this man a reflection of himself times of difficult trials. The old man sought the guilty everywhere, but his attempts were not successful. Then he wondered, what if it was an opportunity to get back into the past? The guy broke at him because now his patience broke up to listen to drunken nonsense. The rest of the attendees warned them to reduce their voice if their lives are not indifferent. Then the main character stopped. And 8 years later, his grandfather finally mastered the art of this technique. But now, when the moment has come to try this technique, he still can't decide. The guy took a deep breath, feeling frustrated. It's just awful. The protagonist rises to his feet and preparing to leave this place. The day was already terrible. Suddenly, the man picks up sharply and rushes towards the guy. He picks up our hero, who barely holds on his feet from deep intoxication. However, the young man rejects assistance, stating that he will be able to get on his own. The man sincerely thanks the boy for listening to him. The old man, in fact, has nowhere to go. Dekonagan could not understand why this stranger decided to join him. The guy leaves the tavern. Going outside, our hero breathed fresh air. The guy stared at the starry sky, plunging into reflections. The boy also has nowhere to go. It turned out to be so unnecessary that it was expelled from the clan. The guy changed all his money for alcohol. Subsequently, the guy climbed the mountain. Suddenly, a stranger appears on his way and asks if he has money. The guy thought it was a bandit, but he had no money left. The stranger does not intend to retreat and leave him alone. Almost instantly, a stranger thieves pierce his sword through. The main character did not expect such development at all. The young man did not expect such a devastating blow. In a moment, he was already lying on the ground. Suddenly, unbearable pain pierced the body, forcing it to cough with blood. Can everything end so? Is this its end? The thief approaches the main character to find out what he hides. Unfortunately, he did not find money. Everything that got into the eyes is a piece of paper. You will really take nothing from this guy. The malicious deceiver went away. It turned out that the desout did not know where he had this piece. Is that the piece he received from a stranger in tavern when he saved him from falling? Apparently, it was then that he slipped that piece of paper. The guy no longer had the strength to be indignant. He just laughed at this situation. The protagonist complains that he cannot disassemble the old man. The Deo starts to cough with blood, and the ears ringed unpleasant. Fragments of his cheerful life emerge in memory. Training for the last drop of sweat and blood, constant efforts. And here are these over the views of the brothers who have always ahead of it. This is from the defeat that left the pain in the body and the soul. Mockery from foreigners and insidious gossip. All these memories swept in the boy's head. Apparently, it's time to relax. It may be even better. The guy felt fatigue. Suddenly, young eyes open widely, exploring the surrounding world. A little boy slept in the cradle, and the nannies were quietly careful. It turns out that this baby is a desout, but he has not yet realized it. The young man tries to understand where he was because he was convinced that he died. The young man feels that he has met these women somewhere. A moment to the main character comes that he is in the clutter of a renovation. This kindergarten was built specifically for the first lady of the clan, his mother. But how did this young man get here? In a moment, the room enters the room. Soon the woman removes the robe from her shoulders. She is about to feed the baby breast milk. Our hero is not delighted, but everyone around has the opposite opinion. So another year has passed. The baby gradually mastered the first steps. The baby knew the world, making his first uncertain steps. Women who looked after the baby were extremely pleased with his success. The guy still couldn't get used to this obsessive attention. The environment cared for him with tenderness and care. The guy quickly realized that he got into the past. The woman made a boy in sleep. He is now 2 years old, and in 18 years he will have to compete for the title of deputy head of the clan. He has a clash with 3 older brothers ahead. He was given another opportunity, and he planned to try again but quickly gave up. He remembers how difficult it is to learn when there is no natural gift. He realized that he would not be able to surpass his brothers. Our hero broke his head over how to find a way to live quietly and carelessly, and so he found a brilliant solution: escape from the clan. The boy's joy was so great that he did not resist and found himself in an unpleasant situation. His tears were so loud that women could not remain indifferent and found decisions. When our hero was 3 years old, he finally began to go for walks. This will allow him to get acquainted with kindergarten. The boy is delighted to look around. Having discovered the whole world, the boy met many paintings by authors, previously not known to him, and many exquisite vases. He is interested in what amount can help if he sells all this property. The guy worked in the sweat of his forehead to justify his expectations and keep the reputation of the clan. However, after 20 years of persistent training, he rose only to the 3rd rank, and when his Danyan was destroyed, no one helped, only watched. Only the mention of this already makes you feel cold. The young man decided, before the start of the competition, announced that he did not claim any awards. If it does not work, the young man decided to take as much money as possible and escape to where the clan will not be able to find it. So by its 20th anniversary, our hero must raise the maximum amount of money. In the clan, the reconciliation stores many jewelry that can be used. With these jewelry, you can get rich quickly. He will not need martial arts. The young man laughed sinisterly. He seemed to be in a great mood today. At least that was the nanny. It turned out that this picture depicting the dragon of the clan was presented by the consul. So 2 years have passed. The young gentleman tries to move a very heavy vase in an unknown direction. The nanny suspects that the young man is playing with vases, but he assures that it is not. With a smile, the boy assures that he just picks up his values. He is emphasized to return the vase to place, but he decides to sell it to make the construction of a house where he can live with the babysitter. The woman is surprised that the boy does not want to part with them so much. Does she really seek it? Initially, our hero intended to escape himself, but then the maids would simply be put outside. So only the protagonist can take care of them. The woman explained that they were unique among the servants of the clan. because all other servants in the clan are famous martial arts. All but the main maid were orphans. They were sheltered and given work. And the maids carefully watch not to interfere with the new achievement of our hero. But the guy is not worried at all. She looks at him with surprise. The young man is not worried at all. He has a dream. His plan is to hide from unnecessary worries and live happily ever after. The younger son of the most powerful clan always becomes the object of ridicule on the part of others. His father is the strongest warrior, and to take him, real geniuses. The clan Nagan has already bored him. He does not intend to become a warrior. Deo asks the maid to take a vase to the heavenly bank and enroll it in his name. The maid seems not too delighted with this task. She believes that he must first receive permission from the head, because this vase is the property of the clan. However, the boy claims that the father is quite important such little things, because his only passion is martial arts. The evening has come. The head of the family is resting in his estate. In a moment, the servant breaks into the room and reports that the young gentleman stole a vase again. The room has a complete silence. It was very interested in the head. What will happen next? A few years have passed. Finally, an important day has come. The young man turned and looked at the clan of Nagan. Today is a decisive day when he leaves the estate. For 8 years, he even to some extent appealed to him. Farewell to him was a real relief. The guy has already shot most of the paintings and vases, so he has nothing more here. His brothers and father, passionate about the fight, are probably thoughtlessly given to workouts. The older brother has already become a master, the second reached the top of the first rank, and the third is just approaching him. He used to work hard to catch up with them, but now he has no trace of calluses. The guy has never been engaged in training. In a moment, the door of the estate opens, and they are released by respectable men in red clothes. This was a detachment of purple blood. They bowed to see a young master from a large clan of a recess. Their movements were perfectly worked out. It is better not to joke with them. The captain of the purple blood controls the detachment. He is probably the only captain in the world that also works as a gardener. The family was already looking forward to our hero. The moment has come to the Tigrina Liga. The gates dissolved widely. The equestrian trolley went on the road. The young man intently remembered the captain's guidance. 5 years ago, the consul stopped support, but despite all the difficulties, the guy grew strong and healthy. The guy was able to remain carefree. Regardless of the circumstances on the way, they swear to defend the main character, even if you have to sacrifice their own lives. The problem of purple blood lies in their archaic outlook. It is difficult to believe that the captain could deceive a representative of a neutral fraction. Maybe he just made a mistake. During these 5 years, the level of support has only increased. Over a while, they got to their destination. The young man jumped out of the cart. A huge wall rose before him. All the straight heirs of the clan were already waiting for the door. They probably seek to evaluate his abilities, not just say hello. The first impression is key. Having realized the situation, he decided to take a loose. Let everyone make sure that he absolutely has no ability to martial arts. The main character is full of pleasure in how successfully his plan was. Suddenly, the guy listened to the difficult steps approaching him. The body has covered the frost from loud stupidity of difficult steps. His father stood in front of him, penetrating him with a sharp look. Before him stood a mighty warrior, the true god of martial arts and the head of the clan of Nagan. It was the father of our main character. The young man had no idea that his father would appear here. In his past life, he trained continuously, and not finding time to congratulate him or his brothers. The unexpected meeting forced the boy's heart to solidify. Deo shuddered. The face of the man remained unchanged without any sign of emotions. As usual, Deso doubts whether he can deceive his father. What if his secret is exposed? The guy lifted his eyes with fear. He was horrified. He looked at his son as if at a small insect, everything around constantly pressed on the Deso. The young man froze in silent horror, unable to say a single word. The tension struck him so that he even forgot how to breathe. The young man should say hello immediately, otherwise the father threatens to kill all his maid. This man can really go to this, because he is a real monster. He is indifferent to his child. A moment later, the guy found the strength to congratulate his father. The man performs a melody on the flute. Everyone was already celebrating the holiday. They were dating, joking, and laughing. The atmosphere was joyful and festive, all around the exaltation. Our hero still cannot recover from what happened. Fortunately, his father went immediately after the dent greeted him. This should not affect his plans. Stunned, he completely forgot about the brothers sitting directly opposite him. The young man would not really like to conflict with them. The protagonist is well aware that he cannot withstand them, so he decides to draw a sweet and defenseless younger brother. The mom of the Deso was considered the first beauty, so he got innate attractiveness. The brothers can continue to argue for the role of the clan leader, and the guy will stay away. After everyone enjoyed lunch, it's time to go home. It is unfortunate for guests that they will not be lucky to see the abilities of the younger gentleman, because it is a privilege accessible only to the direct heirs of the clan. Now that the guests have already gone, you can go without hesitation to the first test. In a moment, balls of different sizes rolled into the room. Today is not just a greeting ceremony. It is also the day when they check the ability of a direct descendant of the clutter. And so this test began. The guy will be tested by 3 criteria, and the first of them is strength. He is instructed to lift steel balls. The protagonist is tuned to demonstrate his power, and here, in a few seconds, it raises 0.5 kilogram of steel ball. The results of his brothers were much better, so it causes a general surprise. Then the Deso approaches a layer that weighs 50 kilograms, getting ready to lift it. The young guy tries to lift the weight, shouting a loud cry from tension. Sweat drops roll from his forehead. Everyone was stunned by his unsuccessful efforts. They think it's just a joke. The young man smiled uncertainly and confessed that the burden was excessive. Everyone around began to call him a failure. Everyone argued that it was a complete defeat, and laughing at the guy, but he had a sneeze. On the contrary, he felt joy. Once a guy easily lifted 100 pounds thanks to training, but now even half of this weight will not overcome. Now is the time for the third test, a test of agility. Our hero had to move quickly on narrow pillars. However, having taken a few steps, he fell down, waving his hands. The acquisitions could no longer tolerate such a shame. The young man noticed dissatisfaction on the faces of the audience and gladly realized that everything was happening exactly as he conceived. Now the moment has come to check his ability to feel QU energy. The brothers were focused on the moment, focusing all their attention on the importance of this test. Only brothers, their closest allies, and those who hold key positions in the clan are left. Our hero decided to finally prove that the martial arts are not attracted to him. In this exam, he should show the secret respiratory technique of the Nagan clan. The main character steps forward. The audience is amazed by the joy of the Deso, because he is not visible yet. His father, standing on the roof of the house, watched all this from afar. A thoughtful man only silently rubbed his chin. No one plans to open this technique for the guy. It is the secret of the clan, but all other techniques are based on it, so its mastery would be a priority. As soon as the energy in his Danyana stabilizes, the exam will be successfully completed. The last exam is key. Even if the previous ones have not succeeded, this moment can change everything. So now it is important to fail. In a moment, the man gave the boy tasks. The exam began. Inside the young man, energy was raised like a waterlands. Thanks to the support of the mentor, he just completed the first stage of powerful breathing equipment. This technique serves as a foundation on which more complex methods are mastered. Now the Deso has to test it on its own. The protagonist looks forward to the moment when he is able to confuse all the meridians. In this case, over the next few years, training will become unattainable for him. The young man smiles at ease. Everything happens for his plan. A powerful energy came from the young man. The road is designed in such a way that it is not difficult to repeat it, but now you need to do everything to the opposite. And so, on one of the turns, the main character chose a different direction. After a moment, the Des was engulfed by frantic, sharp pain. However, it was unacceptable to show that he was hurt. It is not enough to simply complicate the situation a little. Everything needs to be twisted so that his path to presidency in the clan seemed unattainable even in the most daring dreams. The plan involves confusing all the meridians. He did not worry too much about his health because in the clan there were the best doctors who would certainly help him. The young man continues to confuse his own meridians. Although the pain becomes unbearable, it still does not seem. But these actions can cause it to be staffed for several years. People around begin to realize that the situation is out of control. It looks like a guy something wrong. The guy seemed to lose himself, but still tolerate pain. Apparently, he is expected for 3 years in bed. Deo realized that time to stop. The young man coughed, spitting blood, and the body was covered with ants. In a moment, he fell without strength. The man immediately ordered the doctors. Now, even if he improves his skills, he will not be able to rise above the 3rd rank. In the future, his condition will gradually improve, but he loses interest in training. Suddenly, the head of the reconciliation himself stands before our hero. Brothers stunned by the unexpected appearance of the father. Did he all this time followed them and supported the deso? The man takes the boy with him and orders to call a doctor to the estate. The elder did not have no idea that he would see the owner himself here. In a moment, the man disappears as suddenly as he appeared. The ceremony is completed. The man disappears rapidly from the field of view, running after a doctor. The brothers came to the conclusion that our hero is devoid of power, agility, and feeling of chi. No matter how he trained, it will not change anything. Full silence reigned at the table. The problem is that for unknown reasons, the head feels sympathy for the younger. It was absolutely unprofitable for his brothers. Meanwhile, his father brought his son to the estate. Meanwhile, the elder hurried to the doctor's room. However, as soon as he came in, he was drawn on a sharp amber of the alcohol. The doctor once again turned out to be seriously drunk. The man approached the doctor, trying to wake him up, and reported that he was urgently called by the head of the clan. However, the doctor is so drunk that it is not able to distinguish reality from his dream. The head ordered the doctor to appear immediately, otherwise he will show how it is to have a hole in his chest. As soon as the doctor heard the order, he quickly gathered and rushed to the estate. The elder was still trying to understand what was happening. Kindergarten financing was planned to cut a few years ago, but the guy still remained alive and healthy. Even the leader of the clan stands on his side. In order for their clan to remain powerful, it is necessary to get rid of the weak. Does the leader support him only because he resembles the first lady? A few days have passed. Our hero rests in bed in the estate. The young man slowly comes to his senses and opens his eyes. Meanwhile, the doctor and the head calmly discussed something with each other. The guy jumped sharply to his feet, frightened to the depths of his soul because he could not understand what was happening around. In a moment, the young man realized that the pain disappeared. It seemed strange. In fact, the young man felt much better. It seemed that energy was shimmering over the edge. Once the young man has already woke up, it is time for him to climb. The young man asks how long he was unconscious. The man asks Konkol, is he really his son? The young man froze in surprise when a stranger turned to his father by his name. He has never heard that someone to do so. Even the main monk of the temple and the master of the sect cannot afford such cheeky behavior about his father. At this point, the doctor complains that modern youth have lost any sense of culture. The doctor reproaches the guy that he did not even express his gratitude to his rescuer. In a moment, the protagonist bows his head to bow and expresses gratitude. In fact, the guy was upset, because of this, the whole plan went a scraper. The plan assumed that he would wake up a disabled person, in need of constant care, and then he would have to say that he was no longer going to train. Now everything has gone to the scare, because he cannot even get sick. However, the young guy does not intend to give up and plans to develop a new plan of action. The young man asks, who is this husband and why the father is here? With his eyes full of anger, his father acknowledges that what his son revealed is really extremely interesting. However, our hero gives way that he does not know what it is about. It was a truly pathetic spectacle, but whatever the guy invented, he will not pass without consequences. The father will not be able to accept the fact that his son did not cope with the elementary circulation of chi. The protagonist does not remember that his father has been talking to him for so long, and even more so call him his son. He changed, became completely different than the one whom the guy knew before. Earlier, he would not spend time watching him, and if he did it, he would only feel frustrated. In the meantime, the doctor asks the boy to get around and tell if he has any painful sensations. Earlier, the body of the young man was not adapted for the martial arts, but now he feels as if he could turn the mountains. That's really. The young man felt an hour of inexhaustible energy. If it were not for the doctor's intervention, our hero could already die. It turned out that the guy was born with mixed meridians, so no matter what his efforts in training, he would not be able to go beyond the 3rd rank. It turned out that in the past life, the young man was defeated by defeat. The doctor will note that he has never met someone trying to fix it. So now, when the energy flow is active again, can you really use chi? To the right, the guy really knows how to act. The doctor is wondering, how could he decide on such a frenzy? Its meridians have been confused for years, so even if you try to untangle them, they would still get confused again. So even the slightest mistake could cost the boy. If the weak meridians of our hero are confused again, he will not help him. The young man wraps the horror when he realizes that he almost called death. Now the guy is in full order. The doctor cured him, but is it possible at all? All people are unique, so the position of the meridians and energy paths in everyone. It is important for the doctor to understand many varieties of human anatomy. In a moment, the guy leans again in the bow in front of his savior. The guy thanks him sincerely for saving him. The protagonist has at least a little manner, unlike his brothers. The man asks the name of our hero, he answers, presenting. It is difficult to imagine that 2 people with such a majestic physique live at the same time. In doing so, they are also a father with their son, a real gift from heaven. At first, the young guy did not realize that the conversation was about him. If it were not for a doctor, our hero could actually die. Now the guy is full of happiness. If the circumstances were different, the guy could be on the verge of life and death. The doctor doubts whether his decision was true. It is interesting how the coexistence of the 2 rulers of the divine physique will affect the martial arts world. The father asks the doctor, does he hint that the guy deliberately confused his meridians during the exam? The guy was already ready to be punished for his act. Despite the fact that the doctor restored the stability of his meridians, the guy will now not be able to master most of the styles of martial arts. The father is worried about whether the son can at least master breathing techniques. However, even so, its meridians do not withstand the load. As soon as he tries to use this technique, the meridians can break, and then even the doctor will help. Now the father is serious about whether our hero is his son. For the young man, everything goes the best. The father seems to not even risk contradicting the words of this divine doctor. In a moment, the manager calls the first agent, and a stranger appears in the room. Arrival in the room belonged to a man from a detachment of shadows. It is the most severe detachment of the clan of the reconciliation that stands for its leader. The man commands the agent to bring a certain thing. In a moment, the subordinate passes to him a book. The man transmits the book to his son, noting that he contains talentless techniques for losers. 3 basic fencing techniques. This book can be purchased at any store. The initial level technique that does not even require chi. This section outlines the basic knowledge of fencing. So, the guy will decide to train without making good efforts, and will develop a new plan at the same time. Our hero is selected from the room feeling hungry. The main character decides to find something for a snack. At that time, he had not yet suspected that this book would cause a real chaos in the clan. The young man walked slowly, doing his business with a smile on his face. The young man could never imagine that he would return to the clan after he was kicked out of here in his previous life. Not long thinking, the main character opens the door and goes inside. Here, his warmth is welcomed by maids who were very excited for him. Women have sincerely missed him. They gently grab him for the cheeks, noticing how he loses weight. The maids have already made dinner. The young guy was hungry and sincerely rejoiced when he heard this news. Our hero could not understand why he sought to obtain so much time his father and brothers. Why, when he always had the maids who received him as he was. The young man sighed with relief, realizing that he finally returned home. However, it becomes a little sad from the realization that one day you will have to leave this place in search of something better. Some time passed, the young man had time to saturate. The young man ate every piece of everything lying on the table. The protagonist decided to take a little walk. He met with a wise doctor and spilled over with a few words with his father. The doctor even gave him a book, though not too valuable. In his thoughts, the doctor's words about the divine physique were circling. There are several types of physique in the martial arts. The most powerful among them is the divine physique. According to legends, it contains the secrets of heavenly dust arts. Such a physique is inherent only in the god of martial arts. People with similar abilities appear only once in an era. It seems that our hero has such a body, but does not feel any difference. However, even with such abilities, the guy will not overcome his older brother. However, in 10 years, it will reach the level of the Grand Master. Only physical strength is not capable of providing mastery of all martial arts. Talent, instincts, sharp mind, stability, and even luck are needed. He is aware that he will not catch up with his brother because he does not know anything yet. And even if his grandfather taught him, he would not bring success. The main character is set to escape from the clan, and nothing will stop him. It is unlikely that the father will share it with someone else. The sun soon disappeared behind the horizon. The young man decided to relax and go to bed. The young man went to his room and got on the bed. One of the benefits of living in an influential clan is the safety that you do not need to worry about. The protagonist is already going to relax, as suddenly pays attention to the book on the table. A young man decides that reading is the best way to get rid of insomnia, so he goes for a book. The book refers to 3 basic fencing techniques that combine heaven, earth, and man. The author invented these techniques, seeking to achieve heaven. However, the protagonist treats these words skeptical, believing that all this exaggeration. The boy flips the book and realizes that there is nothing outstanding. Neither deep philosophical notes nor a striking speed that can be said, no special tricks. There is nothing special in the book, only blows forward, back, and horizontally. It turns out that this book is a real mystery. The guy eventually agrees that the book is quite good. Those who seek to achieve skill in fencing always think, where is their limit? What is the ultimate goal that you want to strive for? For someone, this possession of the sword. For someone, it is the embodiment of chi. And even kinesis, it is he, or the sword of the heart. It is also possible. However, it takes a long way to go to this result. It is impossible to reach the end without start. For the majority, the importance of starting remains underestimated, because any path begins with the first step. How do you strike? You cut and create. It is important to learn more complex strokes until the sword blade draws plum flower in the air. Let your blows become gentle and light, as if a smooth, ticey dance. If you are reading this book, you have to understand the author's idea, but the deso cannot understand it. The author explored all the well-known martial arts of the world and classified them into 3 categories. He called his first technique heaven, the second earth, and the third man. If the reader masters them, it will be easy to master other martial arts. The author called 3 basic fencing techniques as follows: the form of heaven, the form of the earth, and the form of man. Our hero could not fall asleep. He may have been too fond of reading. Suddenly, his gaze stopped on a lonely wooden sword standing near the wall. The guy usually doesn't like to train at night, but decided to try. Under this time, Han Chol and the doctor relaxed on the roof of the estate, enjoying the drinks. Hence the wonderful landscape for the owner's possession. This was a great view of night training, and it was possible to see how the warriors work hard. The perseverance of warriors is striking to the heart. Suddenly, the main character appears, leaving the estate with a wooden sword in his hands. The boy fled from fatigue and soon threw sweetly. The doctor, seeing the boy pulls the sword of the ground, barely restrained his anger. Suddenly, the doctor's indignation has changed deep surprise. He had a suspicion that his father somehow intervened with his son. However, the head calmly states that he did nothing. However, the doctor still does not find a logical explanation of what he sees now. Our hero went outside to train. The young man is umbrellas with a wooden sword, making every effort. The doctor could not believe his eyes. Did the dent really start the workout? He heard that the leader handed the boy a real sword of the ruler. However, 3 basic fencing techniques are just a basic level. How to understand this? The head only smiles mysteriously, avoiding answers. In his past life, our hero has made hundreds of thousands of blows with a sword, so 3 basic techniques for him are not a problem. First, lift the sword up as if you want to get to heaven. Then the sword should be lower down. This movement symbolizes the unity of heaven and earth. The young man constantly strikes the air. The protagonist was stunned when he realized that there was no information left in the book. The guy raged on the author of the book. Our hero plans a few more attempts and then rest. The young guy was fully immersed in a workout, who was fascinated by such an extent that he spent all night. And now the sun was rising on the horizon. All this time, his father and doctor were closely monitored. It seemed that the guy was in a state of trance. But how is it possible if it did not feel any energy in chi? A combat trance is a condition that can be reached if you reach the pinnacle of workouts and get a heavenly blessing. Some people open up future prospects, and for others, this path leads to a completely different channel. The doctor was quite interested, but the head explained that the guy was just managing his sword. But this statement seemed to him a full nonsense. So according to the logic of the leader, do these warriors also only inept sword-waving? Surprisingly, the man agreed with that. The doctor was very annoyed, but he was powerless to change something. Can only those who have endowed the nature of God can grasp it? The young man just started his way. He is still quite vulnerable and cannot even master the technique of breathing. The main character now plunges into the fascinating world of martial arts. Deso was born in a powerful clan and has mastered the art of battle since childhood. It was his whole life that gave only pain and suffering. The tasks that others seemed simple caused the young man serious difficulties. The martial arts brought only torment and trials to the young boy. The protagonist felt his body filled with an unusual feeling. The young guy carefully followed the instructions from the book, paying them all his attention. He repeated the written instructions again and again. This feeling was extremely pleasant and caused a smile on the face of the Deso. Although he was training the deer and had to feel fatigue, on the contrary, he was imbued with a feeling of freshness and cheerfulness. Did the workout always bring so much joy, and did he just not notice it before? The doctor claims that adding chi energy to its meridians can lead to their overload. It is said that the human body is like a small universe. Everything is constantly destroyed and restored. The body of our hero is reminiscent of a dry desert that cracks from every step. The doctor remained in full confusion, not realizing what was happening. The head continues, children, thanks to their pure soul, are able to create miracles. Sometimes it can cause significant changes. This book is an ideal learning tool. These techniques, designed by the swordmaster, will forever go down in the history of martial arts. Even the non-elderly people are able to master this technique, and even those who are sick or unable to learn other martial arts. There is a concept of longevity when a person wants to live long and be healthy. Some martial arts are specially designed to promote life. The most famous of these arts is Shaolin art of muscle memory. This allows you to generate energy in the process of movement. The doctor is amazed that these 3 techniques have the force of healing the body. This explains why the doctor feels chi's energy from our hero, although she is quite weak. The sword owner developed very exciting techniques. Is it not interesting to the doctor that will happen to the ground if it becomes even dry? A gambling appeared on the head of the head. Meanwhile, the young man could not understand what was happening to him. The main character could not realize that he spent all night in training. But he decided not to do martial arts to escape from this clan. The young guy felt his heart amazingly trembled, a feeling that was completely new to him. The young man engulfed a fervent desire to train for exhaustion, and he could not resist it. A maid came out of the building and suggested that the young man herself to freshen up in the shower. He asked if the young man was training all night and received an affirmative answer. The guy himself cannot understand what is happening to him. He decided to take a shower. The doctor asks the man, "Do you think our hero is aware of it?" The man simply ignores the doctor's questions and turns away from him. The supervisor went. The doctor sighed heavily because he never waited for his question. Looking at the guy, the man notices the tiny, barely noticeable chi energy, similar to a grain that seems so fragile that it may disappear instantly. Impressively, but our hero really originated the energy of chi. The legit gently touches the face of the doctor. Is the divine physique before him? After a while, the doctor examined the boy, evaluating his condition. Usually, such injuries heal in 4 months, but the protagonist will be able to recover in a week. However, it is important not to overstress. The doctor notes that the guy is truly gifted with fate. Now, the young man realized that it was a feeling during the improvement of 3 basic techniques. After completing the examination, the doctor is preparing to leave the premises. Upon learning that with the young gentleman everything was fine, the maids felt endlessly joyful because their anxiety was huge. The plan failed, and now it was necessary to invent a new strategy. However, at first he intends to understand how everything works here. At this point, young men ran past him as if they were ducklings in the morning training. It seems that only our hero does not strain. Everyone was just doing what they worked hard. Power brings power. Unlike other clans, the clan of the Nagon is divided into 8 combat corps that determine your place and status in the clan. The head decided in this way because he always opposed unnecessary difficulties. His life principle sounded like this: power determines correctness. However, the Dio did not worry about it because it intended to leave this place in the future. The young man was in the training room, the best place to think about his plan. For a week, the young man should be here every day, with one thought of the humiliating moments that he had to stand. The cold runs the skin. Today he has a secret scheduled visit to the hall. Daiso plans to just look at a little. He is very surprised. He notices that the hall is completely empty. Where did everyone go? The hall is available for training at any time. Why is there no one? Suddenly he notes how boys go into the training hall. The Deso is instantly hidden behind the pillar to go unnoticed. The boys lively discussed the skills of the detachment of Clean Sky, expressing their genuine admiration for their talents. The protagonist came to the conclusion that these guys had just returned from the excursion. The boys have already spread that from the next week to training the young owner will join. It is rumored that the head of the clan personally took him directly from the ceremony. It is also said that the boy has neither strength nor dexterity nori. He failed all the exams. However, the other guy is not ready to trust the rumors until he is convinced. He asks friends if they heard the legend of 30, 60, 90, and 369 days. Of course, they know this legend because she talks about the direct descendants of their clan. In the previous life, the protagonist suffered a lot of suffering through this legend. It took so much time to his brothers to complete the training in the training room. All the recruits of the Clutter of the Reconciliation should be exercised in the hall. Only then they get the status of official students of the clan. Usually, you need to undergo 1-year certification, or it is enough for them to overcome all the cadets in sparring. This sparring is still known as the endless battle. The eldest brother took 30 days, the second brother was 60, and the third one, 90 days to achieve this result. In fact, everything is much more complicated. It's a real madness. Everyone who train in this hall is incredibly gifted, and they are not equal outside the clan. The boys are discussing their achievements in the martial arts. Their friend notes that with this approach, they will never be able to climb to the tops of a detachment of a Clean Sky. The guy boasts that he worked out a steady rider, performing 100,000 blows with a sword. Another guy picks up the conversation and boasts that he performed the same exercise, but with additional weight. These conversations scare our hero. These guys seem to have only muscles instead of brains. The young man notes that 2 boys are crowded with enthusiasm and good mood, while the 2 others seem depressed and upset. They probably did not pass the annual certification and are now forced to stay for another year. The main character understands their feelings better. But in a moment, the Dasso rejects these thoughts. He should focus on his own problems. Soon, the young man leaves the training room. The young man has planned this for a decade, so he can afford another year. His ideas were destroyed by the divine doctor. The Deso did not even think that everything would turn into this way. Our hero is set to let them know what a real failure for annual certification is. He flew a whole week and he was constantly training. The young man gradually feels his energy increases. However, at such a speed of progress, he will have to do training for another 100 years, 3 hours daily. Not surprisingly, Why the book 3 Basic Fencing Techniques is considered mediocre. The guy is absolutely indifferent to what others think. If he likes, he will be engaged in training. The Deso was taken to the training hall without even an end to the week. Our hero was already in the hall, waiting for the arrival of others. The door opened, and a man whose appearance surprised the young man came into the hall. Before him stood an attractive, fair-haired young man. Since the ceremony, they have never seen themselves. It was a second strategist, Chechon's reconciliation. At the age of 5, he already knew a lot of exercises and many other books. At the age of 8, he passed the state exam and became the youngest prodigy. Everyone expected that he would become a minister by this age, but when he was 10 years old, he suddenly disappeared from view. Is such an influential person really arrived here for him? Despite the difference in status, the guy asked to do without formalities. Their interaction should develop in a completely different direction. This meant that now our hero could communicate with a new acquaintance on an equal footing. He immediately asks who he sent it here. It was sent by the main strategist, poet master Nagogun Illo. The master poet is kept away from any clan fractions, so why did he send another strategist? From these reflections, the guy just got sick. It is not necessary to strain so much during a normal conversation. Chechon came here to participate in the ceremony of the young gentleman. The straight descendants of the clan shine much brighter than any losers. The hero engulfed the unpleasant feeling when he heard what kind of arrogance this blonde speaks of others. Because of this, the blonde was chosen by the clan of Nagan. After all, he does not like to explain to every fool several times. Still, you can understand the first time. The guy arrived here despite the lot of work. The blonde praised the boy, and the protagonist immediately noted that the behavior of a new acquaintance seems surprisingly strange. Suddenly his eyes become animal, and he intends to ask something. He, with an ominous smile, asks the Deso whether he wants to join him to destroy the whole world of martial arts. He joined the clan only for the sole purpose, to destroy it from the inside. This young man is a real violent. Now it is clear why everyone calls him crazy. The young man was amazed at what ease the new acquaintance raises such questions. The older brother assured that he would be able to understand her own. The other replied that it was through this bookworms that are unnecessary creatures. The third just called him crazy. Each of the brothers has its own truth. The protagonist, without delay, asks whether he has a plan. There is no plan yet, because the clan of the reconciliation is perfect. They are simply impossible to come. Then the young man asks not to detain him, because he may be late for the ceremony. Deo does not care at all what this crazy will do, because the fate of the clan is indifferent. The blonde guy froze with surprise after this answer. It was something completely unexpected for him. The protagonist exclaimed, calling for a hurry, and recalled that they were late. On the way to the ceremony, the psychic constantly despised this clan. His behavior was so unpredictable that our hero decided to stay away. Finally, they got to the right point. Chechen seemed thoughtful and behaved strange, so the guy pushed him to bring back to reality. The blonde guy again pulls on the face of the mask of courtesy and welcomes everyone. All guys suddenly become more focused and attentive. Everyone was alert when they realized that this person had a higher status. But if they talk to him longer, they will understand that he is just crazy. Then the blonde guy represents the students of the newcomer, the young master of the clan Nagan. All present kept their breath without taking their eyes off. He clearly feels every healing look directed at him. However, Deo realizes that the students will soon be disappointed in it, and it will only play him. The psych represents our hero as someone who has to lead this pathetic clan, overflowing with a short-lived. He heard the students. How could he afford to speak so offensively about their clan? The protagonist of shock after Chechon's statements. The blonde guy continued to ignite the situation. The hero's annoyance reached a peak, and he struck the blonde on his head. It was the answer to his unbearable words. From a powerful blow, the fool flew to the ground. Our hero tried to settle the situation, asking the students not to pay attention to this senseless guy. Deo quickly brought him out from there to avoid even greater senseless statements. The new moon faced the divine doctor again, visiting the infirmary. He appeared to place Chechon in bed and give him the opportunity to restore strength. The guy fainted. His face was not surprised, so he probably made a victim of an ambush or an attack was made by a familiar person. Judging by the redness on his right hand, it was our hero who was involved. The young man asked the doctor how much time he plans to stay here. The man thought, here he is given food and drinks, there is a place to relax. In addition, you can find a variety of entertainment. Without answering his question, the young man unfolds and goes. It was unusual, because in the past life, the doctor never lingered here for so long. Is it possible that the future has changed? But this does not care, because this time, the doctor will definitely not interfere with his plan. Subsequently, a fair-haired young man wakes up and gently grabs from bed. All this time, the doctor followed him carefully. Chechon felt a lot of surprise, because he never worried about it before. The boy jumped happily, stating that he had an anomaly, but the doctor did not notice it. Chechon found a light that could radically change the clan of non-sophisticated ones. Speaking of it, he hinted at the Deso. The guy is not interested in the doctor's words at all because his dream has finally come true. Chechon recognizes the doctor who cared for him and, smiling warmly, seems to be. So, the doctor is now the weird patient mentioned by Yahello. In his look, a deep understanding of the world is read, so it is difficult to call him an ordinary person. It is not surprising, because Han Chol always attracts gifted people with a magnet. Does his son have the same abilities? Chechon says goodbye to the doctor, because there are many things ahead. Without it, everything can go bad. A blonde boy feels that together with our hero, they will turn their ideas into reality. From the opinion of this alone, evil laughter is caught from the depth of the chest. The students in the training room just participated in the classroom. They persistently honed the blows. Everyone went to their individual training. There are no teachers here, so all methods are allowed. Successful certification depends on their future, and they make every effort without stopping for a moment. And so the main character also decides to start his workout. All views were now directed at him. The students did not even try to hide their interest. The boy did not worry about. If they are curious, let them watch. The young man skillfully made several swords. The students immediately realized that these are only 3 basic techniques. They felt disappointment, because the young gentleman has not yet mastered the foundations. If students see that he uses only the simplest techniques, they will surely understand that he really knows nothing. And at the certification, he will confirm it again. It will show that he is a real failure. The guy was worried, because he was afraid that the psycho would break his carefully made plans again. However, it seems that nothing is on his way. After workout, the Deso returns to the estate with the intention to dine. He is surprised, seeing at the table of Chechon, around which the maids are already fussed. The guy is insanely annoyed. At the table sat the strategist of the clan Nagan, Yahello, drinking a drink. At the table is also a divine doctor and the head of the clan of Nagan. They learn from the strategist that Chechon plans to destroy their clan. The second strategist is a truly unique personality. However, no one other than an unusual strategist is able to cope with such a large amount of work. They need to understand that if there is someone who can take his place of the main strategist, then it will be only him. Of course, this guy is a real talent, but be careful, he is dangerous. The doctor is reassured, assuring that this young man is a good person. High intelligence can be a real curse. Everything always happened as this man predicted, so the feeling of nausea every day increasingly absorbed him. It was when he felt that he was losing his mind that a real miracle happened. The Biguan and Conchol's rebellion appeared as a ray of light in his gloomy life. The other strategist went the same. He suffered from deep sadness and boredom, however. He finally found consolation. The blonde boy has finally discovered the source of entertainment. Desu annoyed that this weirdo was constantly following him. Psychus shared the hatred of this clan, like our hero, so he already considered him his friend. However, our protagonist did not live up to this clan of hatred. Chechon was convinced that the Deso intended to escape and win the world, but the young man never affirmed it. In a moment, the young guy exclaims about his passionate love for the clutter. However, he does not like that in his past life, he was imbued with a sword. In such a situation, Chechon could not understand why our hero sought to escape from the clan. Words should be selected very carefully, First, you should find out that this crazy is thought. The young man asks Chechen what he really wants. This crazy man wants to destroy the world, but our hero categorically disagrees with this. The young man plans to start with the smaller and proposes to destroy the Shaolin temple, but the Deso still refuses to participate in this. The weirdo states that the traditional religion is true, so it is not necessary to underestimate its purity and sinlessness. This blonde is a real revolutionary. In the turbulent times of this crazy, they would definitely come in handy. However, they live in the world where power is in the hands of the clutter. Now only the crazy will dare to think of a coup. Now the fair-haired young man considers our hero his leader and looks forward to his instructions. The psych has already made a decision for a young man, so he is now obliged to obey his will. However, the young man denies, because he wants to live peacefully and calmly. If he intended to break the clan, he should not break away from his older brother. The piercing look of a strange stranger still draws the image of our hero as a sleeping dragon. It's not time for action. But the young man does not joke. He dreams of settling in the mountains, near sources of clean water, and to grow fields. The Bazaar thinks that the Deso seeks to seize mountains and rivers to make them own. He only perceives what he is desirable to hear, ignoring the words of the protagonist. In a moment, the young man pulls forward the index finger. He asks only 1 year. A blond young man imagines that this is a promise. In a year, they will start their way to conquer the world. However, the plan of our hero is to realize the weirdo in this year, how much he does not fit into their path, and realized that he was behind forever. A few months have passed. The guy constantly learned the techniques found on the pages of his book. For others, this spectacle seemed pathetic, so he was baptized with a basic fool. However, the young man is only happy, because in the eyes of others, he is now even bigger. However, the main character felt unusual. Chi, which has arisen through daily workout, gradually fills the whole body. It is still not enough, but it doesn't matter. Suddenly, a strange man runs up to the boy and is interested in his workout. He says that the maids have prepared an incredibly delicious dish that will certainly taste him. Chechon is not so bad. He still turns to him as a ruler, while others consider him a common fool. The young man was already hungry, so they decided to go to the dining room. The blond young man, hearing the mockery of his master, throws a heavy, piercing look at them, reminding where their place is. The boys were not alone, and a little shrewd from this piercing look. After that, the blond guy immediately rushed to catch up with his master. When they entered the dining room, unknown, glued balls were laid on a wooden plate. These were small battle pills. The young guy could not believe his ears when he heard it. The main monk of the Shaolinsky temple was handed over to their clan. The guy gives out pills. Even the maid does not forget. Deo suspects that Chechen got these pills dishonestly. Unexpectedly, the guy again feels like chi spills into every corner of the body. Our hero does not matter, because martial arts have always remained outside his hobbies. After these words, a mysterious smile appears on the face of a strange character. The estate is a lively atmosphere. Everyone is busy. Everyone is fussed in preparations for tomorrow's certification, and our hero is waste of his day, not particularly engaged. Chechon had already felt as they would defeat the clan of Nagin. Deo plans to destroy the hopes of this weird opponent. Due to the fact that he improved only 3 basic fencing techniques, he was called primitive. Now he proudly accepts what was considered a failure. The blond guy has already designed a plan to destroy this clan once and for all. There is a time when the god of martial arts is defeated. His goal is to conquer the whole world, and he is already in anticipation of this victory. Today, our hero intends to be defeated in all battles, so the students gathered in front of the building to pass the exam. All were incredibly excited, only the Deso remained absolutely calm. The boy is all the same. It looks like a grand failure awaits him. In a few minutes, the person announces that participants can go. The boys go inside. The guy is amazed by learning that his father will see this exam. His brothers were here, and even the main strategist himself. It seems that our hero's plan has failed again. Last time, people were much smaller here. Chechon stood on the balcony and waved a flag depicting a Deso, demonstrating his undeniable devotion and support. The guy was screaming the most, because they still need to plan a coup with a young man. It seems that the protagonist covered the feeling of shame because of the meaningless deeds of this awkward guy. The jury will only evaluate students' talents and abilities, not taking into account any external factors. If students show a high level, everyone will be able to go on. There are 2 ways to attest: calling someone to a duel. If they show themselves perfectly, they will be able to choose the body they want to join. However, they cannot afford any mistake. In case of failure, they will have to stay for another year. Another option is to enter the arena and have 5 clashes. They will not evaluate the result of the battle, but the skill of performance. But it is important to carefully choose the enemy, because it may happen that they will not fall into the body they wanted. The rules are already clear, so we go to certification. The first student goes on the stage and congratulates all present. The young man strongly calls on the duel of the deputy captain of the detachment Pure Sky, a reconciliation or Yoli. The man was only happy about this. He jumps from the balcony instantly and lands directly in front of his opponent. The young man seems familiar. His name is the Hun. The Dent immediately recognized his face. A master of a Pure Sky detachment from his past life was in front of him. Once, in a decisive battle, he defeated 100 enemies. Last year, this guy also called the deputy for a duel, but did not last 5 seconds. The man agrees to accept the guy in his detachment if he can last 10 seconds. In the eyes of the guy brightly burning the fire of hope. However, it is too early to relax. It is not necessary to think that it will be a simple matter. A moment, like lightning, the man was near the young man. However, the young man immediately reacted and blocked the blow with a sword. It was immediately obvious that the young man had good basic skills. The attendees could not believe their eyes, how the young man managed to stand the blow from the deputy captain. Our hero watched this with some surprise on the face. The deputy is preparing to use new equipment. He sighted his sharp sword towards the student. However, the young man is not going to give up. He is determined to repel this blow. The attendees are convinced that the guy is defeated because he raised the sword at such a critical moment. He rejected 7 technicians and developed a new advanced technique on the basis of 3 others. The blow was so powerful that the tip of the student broke and flew, but he was able to stand. The guy successfully passed the exam, so he was immediately enrolled in the detachment. If you make an effort, it can become the strongest sword in the world. All deputies and corps commanders recognize his talent. Watching the success of the boy, others begin to worry even more. However, the hero cannot understand why he had to put so much effort into the block. He could have done otherwise by achieving the same success. The time has come for another participant. Since no one wanted to announce, the examiner decided to choose the next participant on his own. Suddenly, the protagonist raises his hand and voluntarily proclaims the next. The guy is full of enthusiasm. A blond young man was looking forward to his mentor. The young man radiates confidence. Deo did not make efforts at all. The sword slipped out of his hands, and he did not try to resist. The logical result, he lost all the duels. The weirdo could not understand that his master was actually doing. Meanwhile, the main character politely waved his hand. The young man states that martial arts are not his business at all. It is better for him to study literacy. The blonde guy could not understand what was happening, and it only entertained our hero. The guy just spread his hands, acknowledging that their clan was saturated with many bright talents. The guy noted that their clan really promises a brilliant future. The father silently watched his son's failures, watching every little thing. The attendees were convinced that the guy was a real fool. However, the blonde weirdo tirelessly stood in defense of the honor of his young owner. He could not allow anyone to speak with him so badly about the master. The young man is crowded with joy because everything happened as best possible. Now it is only necessary to wait for it to be expelled from the arena. However, this did not happen. Instead, his father felt intense anger. He was bored. All present immediately froze from tension and fear. The atmosphere in the room instantly gained tension, seemed to be pressed. All unanimously stood on the side of the head, noting that the situation is really extremely boring. He noted that modern youth are not able to have fun and is not capable of anything. Do they really consider themselves the most powerful clan after all this? After these words, the boys shyly lowered their eyes down. Unexpectedly, the insane supported the opinion and remembered that he had a proposal. The young man and no idea had about the pranks of that madman. Then the young man offered to arrange a duel between the direct heirs. Hearing this proposal, everyone immediately focused and plunged into reflections. The protagonist did not seek it for sure, because they again destroyed his dantian. Then the father asks the third son whether he wants to get together with his brother. The guy willingly agrees and immediately appears in the arena. There is no point in calling the older brothers, so the youngest came out in the arena. The father states that the decision has already been made. Our hero trembles with fear, wanting to move away and give up all this. The father says, "If you do not want to fight, you can just give up." However, in this case, it will lose the status of one hand. Given the difference in force, the third son decided not to use chi. The guy cannot understand how everything happened. He considered guilty of everything who called himself insane and followed him constantly. The blonde did it intentionally to entertain themselves. In fact, on that day, he gave him a huge pill that contained as much QU energy as it could be accumulated in a few decades. He knows only one person like this guy, and this is his father, who also possesses divine physical data. He smiles evil, because today our hero will finally demonstrate his true opportunities. In the meantime, young men take positions adjusting to the duel. The brothers not only have never fought, but did not say a word to each other. The young man hopes everything will end with one blow. The battle begins, and in a moment the brother is almost instantly approaching, reducing the distance to a minimum. Without planning to restrain, he causes a devastating blow to the sword. A horror young man can only shout. In a moment, a blow is struck, raising dust and causing chaotic noise around. The young man rejected from the shock. The young man did not stay on his feet and, losing his balance, rolled, hitting a few more meters. The third brother is still on his feet until the dust is gradually settling on the ground. He looks at our hero with contempt and calls him a worthless coward. If the guy did not escape the blow, it would be deadly for him. The third brother has long realized that martial arts did not capture the Deso at all. The young man proposes to shake his hands and disperse peacefully, but his brother instructs his sword. Perhaps today they will come together for the first time and last time. The brother calls for a young man to prove himself a real man, to leave the memory as a decent man. In a moment, the third brother raised his hand, preparing to strike a decisive blow to the enemy. The rapid impact was such that the Deso had no chance to dodge. There were no other opportunities. The only way out is to meet a blow. If the Deso manages to hit the weaknesses of the enemy, it can reduce the force of attack. The young man decides to apply the 3 basics of sword art using the heavenly form. The younger brother was impressed with the unexpected counterattack of the opponent. Thanks to his efforts, our hero was able to withstand an incredibly powerful blow. It was an incredible burden. Hands trembled with tension. Despite this, our hero did not intend to give up. He gathered all his strength, trying to reject the sword. And he succeeded. The young man jumped sideways, and his brother's blade was stuck in the soil. The audience was amazed that the young man was able to dare. Only a blonde guy believed in him. Meanwhile, his brother seems depressed. In his eyes, fear and surprise are reflected. He cannot realize what has just happened. The guy cannot understand what happened because he just hit the blow. All around were amazed. How did the young man be repelled by such a powerful blow? The skill of the third brother in strokes allows you to break any defense, and even it makes no sense to avoid it. The young man cannot understand why everyone is so amazed because he was just protected from the blow. At this moment, the third brother covers the crazy anger and the thirst for the fight. If this is not a coincidence, then our hero must fulfill it again. Brother CO seeks to witness this moment again. He made a series of blows, but the Deso cleverly escaped each of them. The third brother concentrates all his power on the strokes, and the Deso makes every effort to avoid them. The brother causes the same blow again and again, so there is no choice. The main character again is forced to repel this blow, as did last time. Focusing all his power, he preparing to apply 3 basic techniques for the art of owning a sword, a human form. In a moment, the deso hit the enemy directly into the elbow. He then strikes the wrist and lower leg. The brother continues his powerful blow, but feels that he is now unable to put all his strength. Deo kicks into key places, from where the brother gets his strength, and then successfully closes weakened attacks. The brother did not believe that our hero was able to fight so skillfully and skillfully. Deo again uses the same tactics to block the enemy's attack again. In a moment, our hero deliberately reinforced, allowing his brother to knock his sword out of his hands. The wooden sword bounced a few meters away from the brothers. The new moon fell on the floor, recognizing his defeat. A weirdo boiled from indignation at his master, unable to understand his actions. The main character again repeats that martial arts are not for him. He dreams of a peaceful life. The young man is going to go, but his brother prevents his intentions. The brother immediately realized that the guy just made it as if he agreed to escape from here as soon as possible. Deo no longer knew how to prove his brother who should release him immediately. The brother begs the father to allow the match. The third brother wants to try himself again, but now using real swords. Parents look difficult and harsh. He looks closely at the guy. The head of the clan is fully agreed, and without hesitation approves this proposal. However, the deso remains confused. Why continue the fight if he has already been defeated? The guy appeals to pity, arguing that he is so exhausted that he is not even able to hold the sword. The attendees are discussing the fight, adding that another match will not change anything because our hero has already been defeated. The jury is closely examining the boys, as if thinking about the possible result of their duel. Third brother is a stranger fake victory. His pride is trained only honestly. The brother believes that the hero gave way to sway. If he does not now take the sword again, he will become his enemy. The protagonist will not understand why his brother's reaction is so boring. The jury has a suspicion that everything is not so easy here. The older brother does not consider the problem if they have to fight again. The young man in despair. Do they not calm down until he loses his hand? Without thinking for a long time, the father gives permission to revenge. The third brother is covered by the desire for victory, while sadness is pouring from the dent. However, because of the difference in force, the father introduces a new rule. The swords can only be crossed once. The protagonist does not ask questions. The young man was in a hopelessness. In this clan, all simply obsessed with martial arts, but cannot tolerate this. If the guy invents a new trick, his brother threatened to cut his hands. The guy is aware that he could not win his brother. He has already gained the first rank. However, the boy does not want to remain helpless cripple, so he again takes a sword and adjusts to the fight. The guy tries to come together with his thoughts, convincing himself that everything will happen as best as possible. The blonde guy shooks the words of support loudly by waving the flag. However, the young man is so focused that he does not notice the cries around. At this point, the young man is completely immersed in the thoughts of his brother, not noticing anyone and nothing around. And in a moment, the brother strongly rushes to the enemy, using a devastating stroke of steel. The protagonist swept for a moment. Although the blow was not very fast, it was impossible to avoid it. The guy was aware, if he wanted to keep his hands, you need to act immediately. He again turns to basic techniques, uses the form of land. The brother easily avoids his attack. The brother will no longer succumb to this trick. The guy has exhausted all the possibilities. Now he can do nothing, because he no longer knows the ways of action. No matter what, the young man is not going to give up, and again uses the simplest techniques. The young man is convinced that even his brother is not able to dodge the blow in the air. The young man is rapidly jumping up, as if he was picking up the wind. The brother is struck, quite sure that he has gone, and now the opponent is defenseless. Opening his eyes, he does not find the opponent in front of him. Where did he go? At this point, our hero used the power of heaven, the power of the earth, and the power of man. It was a perfect swordmaster technique. The brother believed that all these basic technicians were only a distracting maneuver. He has no choice except to take a blow. Their swords face, causing a powerful shockwave. The stranger is sincerely worried about his young mentor and tries to cheer him up. The young man barely keeps the balance of this extremely powerful blow. In his previous life, he lost Dante. Does he now have a loss of hand? This thought awakens the boy's motivation. He will never allow himself to humiliate himself and take away what is close to him. Seeing this, the blonde swamp from happiness was jumping on the spot. The doctor was amazed at the loss of the gift of language. His body may have been devastated and the confused meridians dried the earth. However, the three basic techniques filled the earth with life-giving moisture, like soft rain. And in this lifeless desert blossomed bright flowers. The young man is full of faith in his own strength and future victory. The brother becomes really difficult when our hero begins to show all his power. Our hero, unfortunately, does not withstand the strength of the blow and falls. The brother's sword, filled with blood, and the young man falls on the ground. The jury proclaims the winner of the CO. The main character is exhausted to the ground. The guy quickly ran to the rescue. His body was covered with deep wounds, and the acupuncture was urgently needed. Chechen stood, silently watching the events. The doctor drew attention to the unusual behavior of the boy who was not characteristic of him. Since the condition of our hero was critical, the divine doctor approached him. The father only looks coldly with his wounded son. Suddenly, the brother waves her hand and hit the ball, breaking it. The young man intentionally wounded himself. It turned out that due to the unexpected attack, the guy used not 30, but 50% of his power, thus punishing himself. Now not a deso, and his brother should flow blood. So the young man is aware of his defeat. Soon the protagonist comes to his senses while lying on the bed. The young man immediately realizes that he is in the hospital. As soon as he tries to rise, his whole body permeates acute pain. He remembers how his brother struck him. However, the deso is not upset because both of his hands remained intact. Chechen advises the young master to relax and relax. The protagonist is crowded with fury to this crazy. All his wounds and the fact that he almost died is the fault of this madman. Although he was on the verge of death, he won. The protagonist cannot comprehend that he won. The doctor notes that the condition of our hero has improved because his voice sounds extremely lively. The young man, without trusting this psych, asks the doctor to explain what really happened. The doctor agrees with the boy, reporting that he won the duel. After the triumph of our hero, his brother announced his decision to go into solitude. He assured that he would return in 3 years. The main character is difficult to believe. The head of the clan decided to reward him for winning the duel. The guy got some scroll, but could not understand his appointment. It turned out that the scroll gave the right to 3-day access to the archive, which stored 10,000 books. It is a pass that gives access to an archive where a large number of books are stored. The archive stores real masterpieces, and many of them have not yet been opened. Many who got into the archive managed to return from there with significantly improved skills in the martial arts. Although you can find absolutely unnecessary texts, the archive is a real treasure trove of knowledge about martial arts. However, the main character insists on his decision not to visit the archive. The psychic is stunned because many people are ready to resort to murder, just get the opportunity to get there. Chechen notes that the dream of our hero is to live in the shadow, to be afraid, and to tremble with fear. The words of a blond young man were summoned by irritation. The young man expresses disappointment and states that at the moment the young man is unlikely to overcome his purpose. Earlier he may have been in the shade like a mouse, but after the last match his name became known all over the world. From now on, the guy cannot count on a peaceful life, no matter where he is. However, there is one way to leave the clan. To survive in tigers, you can try to destroy all predators, or become their leader. Therefore, Chechen proposes to gradually increase the influence of the deso. The angry guy sharply grabbed the collar of this fool. He designed to teach this hungry for his endless chatter. Soon the room was filled with a mighty cry. Chechen was covered with bruises and wounds on the face. However, they deserved them in full. Despite the apology, the anger of our hero did not subscribe. It turned out that all the efforts of the protagonist were in vain. All martial arts must be mastered for survival. Starting the challenge, the young man decided to give all his hand to achieve the goal. He is charged with enthusiasm and seeks to overcome all obstacles. Tomorrow, our hero is waiting for dramatic changes in life. The young man does not understand what it is about. Those who seek to follow him with pure intentions will appear, but there will be those who will only show it. The guy will find himself in the center of the universe, but without sufficient power will turn into a puppet. Its main purpose is to gain more power. In this way, he will be able to protect himself and avoid the opportunity to be guided by others. Deo imagined his life where he is weak and no one pays attention to him. This feeling is well known. The fate of weak people is always difficult. In the previous life, both brothers gave way to their eldest brother. However, there was nothing for them. They just chose the way to follow their ideals. Despite the defeat, they were recognized for their plan. Then the young guy decided to take the competition seriously. After that, he will have a chance to become a farmer or merchant and enjoy a quiet life. However, first you need to reach the level of your older brother to become at least a grandmaster. They have no more than 3 years, as the CO renovation has been training alone. After that, the main character went in an unknown direction, but the psychopath did not understand where exactly. As it turned out, the guy still decided to visit the archive. They soon got to the archive. All you have to do is find the right book. The older brother gained his skill by visiting this place. The older brother has succeeded by mastering the martial arts described in these books. While our main character is in the archive, the weird watches the maid. The senior and second brother will remain idle for some time. The consequences of the situation are such that through our hero, the trio brothers broke up. The imperial family sought help. If sent to the estate of subordinate CO, no one dares to bother them until the isolation continues. Other brothers will start the competition with each other, but no one will dare to the first step. If the guy has decided to visit the archive, you should use this opportunity to be full. Otherwise, enemies will definitely try to use it. It turns out that our hero has already made a plan. Soon the young man entered the archive. At the same time, someone seamlessly followed him from the bushes. Hardly the guy entered the room as strangers instantly disappeared from the field of view. Until this day, Chechen never participated in the battle that could be defeated. The war of factions will begin soon, but they will now be prepared. Meanwhile, one of the servants reports to his master that their observers are hiding near the archive. They are currently reporting to their executives. The head has already learned that the young gentleman had entered the archive. The blonde weirdo was convinced that our hero could not do without his help. The young man is aware that it's time to act on his own. At this time, the hero visits the archive. He is surprised how much information is collected here. All these books contain secret techniques. The young man instantly imagines how much he could earn if he sold at least a few of them. However, in a moment he gets up and recalls the purpose of his visit. This is not money. In his previous life, the older brother mentioned that he found secret equipment on the most remote shelf. The protagonist came across an old dusty book and suggested that she was the one she was looking for. Yes, it was the same book with the technique mentioned by the older brother. Finding a book is just a beginning. Now you need to learn how to use her knowledge. Many of the clan representatives tried to master this technique, but no one managed. It allows you to share consciousness to use 2 martial arts at the same time. This is the essence of yin-yang art. It can undoubtedly be considered one of the best techniques of all time. However, only to divide your will is not enough. Almost every member of the clan that has mastered this art capable of similar. To stand in front of your brother, you need to discover what he discovered. The young man decided to find out about it, regardless of costs and efforts. Jongkun's residence has already learned the news. Our hero visited the archive. The second brother instantly realized that our hero is looking for a book about yin-yang art. It looks like this young man conceived something. The second master of the clan Nagan is known to the majority as a scientist or talented young warrior. However, for the closest associates, it is marked by intrigue. He orders his subordinates to continue watching the younger, but calls for care of the crazy. Yin-yang art looks like a performance when compared to real power. Concomitant use of 2 martial arts is a great option for an unexpected impact from the rear and rapid retreat. To master these techniques, he should go on a long journey. Deo cannot know about it. The older brother from birth was cut from others. Our hero is marked only by his funny tricks and bizarre behavior. Gifted people are often compared to each other. The brighter their talent shines, the more people they attract. However, if someone is too different from others, it can cause fear. People who seem too different are often isolated. Although Chechun will not call it unreasonable, people still perceive it as weird. Persons of this type can be quite dangerous. Based on his internal motives, this crazy dog began his movement. The deer surprised the second brother during the duel. The brother can't grasp why this madman sought a duel with the younger one. The master manages to arrange 5 masters of the highest rank and above in the archive of 10,000 books and 5 soldiers in the military pavilion. The guy was sure that it was not unnecessary, and even the army that followed the third would be too small. The subordinate is ready to order. A moment later, the subordinate leaves the room, leaving it alone. Seeing the dragon for the first time, it is easy to confuse it with a snake or worm. The guy from childhood lived under the mighty shadow of the dragon. The guy is eagerly waiting for the moment when in 3 days, our hero will be able to show his true essence. Is the Deso really a majestic dragon or just a worthless worm? The young man unfolded the book and froze in real estate. The content of the book remained completely unknown to him. The young man tries to read these mysterious words, but she almost breaks his tongue. Deso is already boiling from nerves and irritation, thinking why in the world you need to turn into combat equipment. The theory of 3 basic fencing techniques was laid out much more accessible. Initially, there was only a small universe from which chaos later arose. Chaos appeared in chaos, forming a new world, infinity, which became the highest point of beginning. One part absorbed the energy of the sky, turning into yang, while the other, saturated with earth energy, became yin. That is why they were called yin and yang. It was clear to our hero. In any case, UDAN is based on higher principles. From this came yin and yang. The energy was divided into 2 parts. One stream is directed to one side and the other in the opposite. The young man, feeling pride in his success, calls himself a genius because he realized how to disassemble. The spirits in the book are recognized that the Deso is really resourceful if he was able to reach this point. The young man continues to read and his mood changes again. He's confusion. What is this nonsense? A moment later, the young man rejects the book, deciding that it is enough to theorize today. The spirit quarreled the hero for contempt for the book. Deso decided to test everything in practice. Through the study of 3 basic fencing techniques, he was able to accumulate some inner strength. Initially, the guy decided to use a great breathing technique. In a moment, the young man felt the flow of energy that passed through his whole body, affecting each cell. He never felt that the inner strength was moving at such a speed. If you try to stop her force, it can damage the meridians. The whole cycle lasts at least an hour. Deso feels that he made a mistake. First of all, you need to focus on what has already started. The young man decided to start with the separation of yin and yang. The guy is amazed that he succeeded on the first attempt. The young man blows in a smile, realizing that everything has succeeded. It seems to be a real genius. However, our hero hurried with joy. In a moment, his feet covered the ice. Its upper body was covered by a fiery heat. The guy didn't know what had just happened to him. It seems that his head is burning and burning at any moment. And at the bottom of the legs, it is so cold as if they were frozen to the bones. The young man suffered from pain and pleaded to stop it. Suddenly, the explosion came, and the shine broke up around the dazzling glow. The Deo fell on the floor, squeezing in unbearable pain that pierced his whole body. The spirits rejoiced, seeing how a self-confident young man finally suffered a well-deserved punishment. Let it feel it to the heart. Is it possible to make such a bundle on a stranger? The protagonist lay on the floor, rolled up with pain. It was not necessary to get involved in these martial arts. Consciousness floats from the heat, and the guy begins to doubt the reality of what is happening. But you can't give up. If the guy die again, where to go? Deo realized that he was able to change the temperature, turn cold into hot and hot into cold. In a moment, our hero begins to exchange energy. The young man makes every effort. Energy boils inside it. The combination of 2 opposite energies is a truly brave act. Does he really believe that he can avoid the consequences and go unpunished? Suddenly, he felt something unpleasant in his throat. The guy instantly opened his mouth, releasing the externally, which raging inside. He says to the doctor, "Do you know what is the highest start?" Udan people do not know what is the highest beginning, but they behave as if they are the most illuminated. When yin and yang's energies joined again, everything happened. 4 and 5 elements were born, as well as other new disciplines. However, all this is recorded in all this important moment. The man raises his index finger, emphasizing the importance of the human factor. And all this stands for the human power, which balanced everything. Deo cannot understand where all the pain suddenly disappeared. The protagonist realizes that a storm still prevails in his soul. The spirit cannot believe that he has overcome 4 elements, because it is possible only after full comprehension of yin and yang and their harmonious combination. The boy is amazed at how he managed to do it. The guy knows nothing. He only looks as his body arranges himself. How can it be that yin-yang's art is so unusual and disordered? He could remain disabled if he tried to activate energy without end. Our hero could not realize what was happening in his soul. He notices how the energy is slowly directed to his head, and he does not want it. The young man categorically does not want to turn into a fool. The young man turns to energy with all kindness, begging it back. However, energy does not want to go down. In a moment, the energy struck the young man in the head. The pain was unbearable. A frantic cry broke out of the chest. The young man, exhausted forces, fainted and fell on the floor. The pain was so unbearable that his consciousness had disconnected. Spirits watch him and think that this failure is no longer alive. Many of those who are called perfect in Muriam began their path from situations that look like this. Khan Chol sees perfection in several people. The first of them is his late father. The second of whom Khan Chol admires is a person who was able to overcome 5 masters of the central plane, 5 kings, and 5 noble men. The former heavenly demon, which became a dark creature. However, his life was cut off when his own father cut his throat. The father had to fight him, claiming that the heavenly demon was also endowed with perfect qualities. However, he lacked abilities to realize this potential. The doctor is amazed at what is being said at all. Does our hero really have all these perfect features? Yes, this young man is really special. If you add 3 basic techniques of possession of the sword to his divine constitution, we will get a wonderful basis. But this is not enough. Deo has only 3 days to capture something from the archive. Is it possible to succeed in such a short time? The doctor did not survive this himself, so he hardly believes. Now they will closely follow the guy. Meanwhile, the spirits were curious to the Deso, not understanding why his soul still remains in the body. Suddenly, the main character widely opened his eyes. The young man turned out to be alive that he was scared of the spirits who considered him dead. Our hero looked around, trying to understand how much time he was here. In a moment, his gaze came on a sand clock. It turned out that almost 3 days passed. There were only a few hours in the Deso. Some results must be achieved urgently to find an excuse before Chechchon. The spirits rejoice. They are convinced that the attempt of our hero to master the art of yin and yang has been completely collapsed. Suddenly, the guy felt something starting to move inside his belly. Did he spend something in the coma in the 3 days? Seeing such a sight, the spirits lost consciousness right in place. They could hardly imagine that the guy would succeed. On the boundless spaces, the seeds have sprouted and confidently reinforced the roots. 5 elements in their harmony. Experienced warriors, not young people, were usually studied in this art. Martial arts skills are being improved with experience, so the most important stage will start from now on. From the seeds can grow ordinary weeds, or a powerful tree that is at times exceeding a person's height. Or it will become a huge mountain that will attract general attention. Soon the door of the archive opened, and the bright light blinded the guy. The spirits will monitor his future growth. If he turns out the same as his father, it will be extremely exciting to watch him. Subsequently, the guy leaves the archive. The main character has not noticed the sunlight for a long time. The Dio is upset because even after these 3 tense days, the psycho never appeared to meet him. The protagonist thinks about punishing Chechon for his indifference, but suddenly hears a familiar voice. The young man could not believe his eyes. An older brother stood in front of him. The older brother explained that he came here only to meet him, but in his look there was a certain cunning. The guy with his brother is not so close to meet for no specific reason. The brother asks the hero to go with him. The young man does not sink, it's all for him, a real surprise. However, the brother is in no hurry to discover all the secrets. He promises that the guy knows everything when they get to their destination. Soon the boys go to a cafe where various dishes sparkle on the table. The brother tells that he invited the boy to a cafe to have a dinner together. Deso guesses that the brother does nothing for a good reason and begins to suspect that food can be poisoned. The second brother notes that our hero refuses to eat but does not know why. In fact, the young man felt a hunger desperately, and in the next moment he could not stand. He quickly pounced on food, almost eating everything at once. The brother did not expect that our hero would show such a crazy appetite. He cannot figure out what the psyche attracted the attention of his brother. The curiosity took the mountain, and he decided to organize this meeting to understand in person. The protagonist looked like an ordinary child. Suddenly, the young man turns to his older brother. The brother expects the guy to ask why he is here. But instead, the young man asks if he could get a few more foods from his brother. The guy is upset by considering our hero a true non-jag. However, he gives him the opportunity to enjoy food as much as he wants. Deso is deeply grateful to my brother for his care. He continues to treat his brother with various dishes. While the guy enjoys the dishes, he does not stop praising his brother. Suddenly, the guy feels strange in his chest. It was necessary to immediately knock out the boy what he hides. However, now something restrains him from committing such cruelty with his brother. He is aware that our hero has mastered this complex technique so much that it uses it at a subconscious level. Then the brother decides and proclaims the snake. In the afternoon, the brother offers a little walk in the open air. Deo cannot understand why the brother suddenly became so kind to him. In the past life, everything was completely different. He was once cold and ruthless. He was even called a three-headed snake. The brother confessed that he had already noticed Deo mastered Yin-Yan's technique. He shares the story of how he also mastered this art, working in the archive. The young man was stunned, because this technique first had to master his older brother. Have not only the older brother, but all the talented members of the clan have already mastered this technique? The brother warns him, asks not to succumb to this, because it is a trap. The young man thinks that such a significant expansion of his Danish. But it is not only the Danish. The feeling is as if a young man is standing in endless spaces. Compared to the past, the whole world has become completely different. The brother asks the hero what exactly made him stop. The guy was slightly behind his brother, fascinated by the views of the mountains. The guy suddenly crashed his stomach. He may be overwhelmed. He now needs a rest, so they decide to postpone the conversation for later. Immediately after, the guy rushed forward, running away from the scene. The brother still felt unusual, as if something was extremely captured by this day. Suddenly, he realized that our hero rushes in the opposite direction from the doctor's pavilion. Zhong Nagin had already returned and brought the news that the younger brother mastered the art of yin-yan. Although the plan is brought to life, the boy in the eyes is a strange expression. Like the older brother, his eyes were directed to the distance. The brother suspects that the blonde and the psychic had been bad because his face had a bizarre smile. The guy is not going to leave the situation unresolved. He needs to find out why a younger brother has a feeling of discomfort. Meanwhile, the young guy rushed somewhere. It is obvious that his brothers and other members of the clan could not understand the true power of yin-yan art. It was now clear why the older brother put much more effort than others. The clan leader had a unique technique. The older brother may have noticed this technique, and that is why he worked constantly trying to reach his father's level. If our hero meets his father, will he be able to pick up new knowledge as well? The young man ran to the estate where the security guard met, informed that the father was already waiting. Deso was a little surprised. Did the father predict his arrival? It enters and inspects the room. This is his first visit here. After a moment, he hears a loud voice that spills echo along the hallway, inviting him to enter. The guy uncertainly opens the door. His father sits on the throne in front of him. The father asks if the son had already noticed what he had to see. The guy does not understand what his father asks, but suddenly feels the air in the room starts to tremble. The father asks how he appears in his son's eyes. Our hero could not even imagine how powerful his father is. There was a feeling that he was open. He was scared. The guy clearly saw the silhouette of his brother and believed that thanks to perseverance, he could catch up. However, the father had such power that even it was almost impossible to see him. Previously, he could distinguish between some fuzzy outline, as if his body had been wrapped in clouds. But now, before him, only the immense sea of clouds. Now for the Deso is extremely painful and unbearable, the awareness of the grandeur of the clan Nagan. The young man realizes again, only an escape can save his life among these monsters. In a moment, the guy, trembling, exhales what he sees his father. The father looks at him with an expression of astonishment. The young man told everything as he is. What can be the wrong one here? In a moment, the head asks the question, does the son want to surpass his father? When the man grasped the art of yin-yang, he looked at his father and saw a formidable golden dragon in front of him. When the eldest son looked at his father, he said he saw sharp swords. It is only necessary to look once, and this impression will never leave you. The leader sought to imitate his father, so he constantly improved his skills. The eldest son also sought to inherit his father's traits and, to get closer to his image, training diligently. As a result, both sought to surpass their parents. It is an instinct inherent in all living things. However, our hero quietly confesses that he has no desire to surpass his parents. The young man hits his face with his hands and trembles, waiting for him to fall on his father again. The man just asks, "Who do you dream of being, son?" The protagonist raises the surprised eyes. Isn't the father really angry? The guy asks if something good has happened because today the father talks unusual. Dio realizes that the leader certainly exposes any lie, so you will not liberate frankly demonstrates his true feelings. Our hero confesses that he wants to engage in agriculture in a quiet and calm corner. Chol looks at the Deso with an indiscriminate expression, carefully hiding any emotions. The young man begins to justify himself, claiming that he does not have a whisper to the martial arts. He believes that it is the older brother who should become the heir to the Vingun family. The young man did not even think of claiming the place of the heir. He adds that it has recently begun to be attracted to trade. Perhaps you should try to devote yourself to yourself? Suddenly his father explodes malicious and eerie laughter, forcing the guy to silence. The man looks like a real monster, but his sinister laughter does not subside, and he is in no hurry to explain something. Conchkol notes that in the family the reconciliation was already a person who did not feel any passion for martial arts. This person, like the Deso, had similar dreams and was even able to realize them. The guy immediately asks whom his father speaks of. It turns out that it is one of the direct descendants of the clan. This person has never participated in the battles and has never been injured. There is no scratch on the body. The protagonist still hopes for a normal life, without the danger of getting a hole in the abdomen. The guy really wanted to know what happened to the person. The young man suggested that this person either strengthened his influence in the region or became the leader of the most successful trading guild in the world. In a moment, the father raises his index finger. The father, pointing up, says that this person is there now. The guy thinks that this person probably was on the roof of the head. However, the man notes that this person is actually a little higher. But above the roof is only the sky. It seems that the guy has not yet realized that this man had already left the world. The father allows the son to go on. The guy is afraid that such reflections can lead him to heaven. The man lifted his head, looking into heaven, and plunged into thought. Once upon a time, as a child, the former clan leader had a dream to become a farmer in a cozy corner. Conchol could not understand why his father did not fulfill his dream, because he had all the possibilities. However, it turned out that everything is much more complicated. Even if you live peacefully and do not touch anyone, it does not always guarantee safety. There are always those whose fates are broken, and they will not lose your chance to see you. He remembers the day when one of his subordinates reported misery. Conchol realizes that his son's desire is the same as he has. The guy is forced to hide his true emotions, but still dreams that his grandfather will become a true support for him. Let him feel what it is to live in silence and harmony. In a moment, the second brother opens the door wide. The older brother turned to his father to learn more about the younger talents. The young man was noticeably surprised by such frankness. The father, hearing these words, just smiled. The man asks what makes this attention to the talents of the younger brother. The guy is somewhat confused. He needs to understand his feelings for his brother. The father realizes that if the brothers come together in the duel, the victory will inevitably reach the younger brother. It would be unfair. The guy rejoices that his father has abandoned this idea. Jongnagan insists on his own because the younger brother can become the heir to the family, and possession of power is an important feature for this. The young man requests that you get permission to hold a younger brother's match with representatives. The main character is surprised to open his mouth. If the brother is defeated, he must fulfill any requirement of his younger brother and take him as an heir. He assures that even in the case of victory, he will not create any problems. Of course, the brother says it because he is convinced of his victory. The father says it looks quite fair. Will he really agree? In a moment, the head appeals to our hero, asking his opinion. The guy decides to ask a counter-question, wanting to change the topic of conversation and avoid further discussions. The match of representatives is arranged when opponents can injure each other from anger or there is a significant difference in their strength. For the duel, choose a warrior who beats on your name. My brother has many skilled warriors who can instruct it. However, our hero has, under the guidance, only maids capable only for cleaning and cooking. The young man is sincerely grateful to his brother for the proposal, but the challenge that stands in front of him requires more effort. The brother cannot understand why the Deso works as if he has no support or family. The young man is concerned, imagining that he may offer to send one of the maids to heaven. It seems that the protagonist is not yet aware of the changes that took place as he was in the archive. All this time, the strategist secretly developed his strength, hiding behind the boy's name. The guy boiled from rage because of this failure. From his fierce face was covered with veins. He was set to crush this crazy in ashes. 4 days ago, Chechon actively supported and increased the influence of the younger mister. Now his responsibilities include the supervision of the yard, cleaning the stairs, pruning branches, and more. The white-hair teacher feels great. He loves all routine tasks to a student. It is necessary to wash more than 1,000 steps daily. And what do workers who rise and descend many times? Suddenly, he has an idea, and he quickly begins to flip through the pages. The guy saw something extremely ridiculous, and it caused him a laughter. In the book, the guy found something that convinced him. You do not jump with this clan. An ordinary person is unable to perform and withstand such an amount of work. However, the members of the clan easily cope with such work. Their endurance and skills cannot be underestimated. The young man plans to attract them all to the side of the younger master before his return from the archive. The young man considers how to attract them to his side. They are ready to accomplish any trivial tasks, but they lack time even on the martial arts. The guy is convinced that they once were stars, but because of old injuries, they are now considered failures. He is a little worried about their mercenaries, but it is this independence that makes this role acceptable. Soon a young man with blonde hair is going to have a snack first, and then think. He can't wait to find out what dishes were prepared today. The guy plans to prepare a gift for the maid, so it's time to take the case. Going outside, he immediately felt a pleasant aroma of food. It seems that the evening will serve boiled chicken. Soon the guy strongly opens the door and confidently goes inside. Numerous men, occupied by a delicious dinner at the table. The blonde young man is embarrassed why they were in the younger lord's pavilion. One of the maids carefully took the boy by the hand and ran to the table. She was sincerely pleased with his meeting. Chechon asked her what was happening. She explains that these people work hard, but because of the constant lack of products, they often have to eat residues. Therefore, the older maid sometimes treats them with additional dishes. A blonde young man takes his place and looks towards the meal. Today, they serve a special dish. Chechon notes how the maids politely talk to men. Meanwhile, another maid prepared light snacks so that men could quickly be backed up during the work. Men discuss the work of maids, expressing their skill. They are sincerely grateful for their kindness and attentiveness. The maids were able to gather all employees who are usually difficult to gather in one place, and also won their trust. It's just incredible. Unexpectedly, one of the men joins the guy. He asks the young man who brought him here. Chechon recognizes this man. He was once a Buddhist monk who retreated from the way. The voices spread that his hand was lost as a result of a certain incident. After a shocking loss, he left Shaolin. Traveling the world, he made many murders and disappeared without a trace. And here this person is here. He is now responsible for cleanliness in the clan yard. They slowly tie the conversation. He wished the young man delicious. Suddenly, the maid inadvertently touched him by her shoulder. The maid grumbles a little at the man because he sat down several times and started eating, and someone has not even raised a spoon yet. Blondin is nervous. To cause rage to such a threatening person is dangerous. The psychic. Now everyone will not congratulate. To his surprise, a man shows unexpected calmness and friendliness. A blonde guy can't understand that. The girl shared rumors. The eldest maid was talking about her husband, and now he wants to find out what exactly. Especially for him, she prepared a special dish to thank the woman in the market. It seems that a man has the affection for a woman and blush from such news. But the maid destroys his expectations, not wanting to reveal the details. It's a secret. Everyone around are laughing. Everyone claims that the man was sown, but he considers otherwise. He is told that he is in vain, because he is a simple cleaner, and she is the main maid. Hearing such words, the man covers incredible anger. The man is convinced that he looks at him with contempt only because of his flaw, the absence of one hand. Suddenly, their quarrel is interrupted by one of the maids. The maid monitors them like children. The guy could not imagine that hired workers would prove so obedient. Our hero will be amazed when they meet with maids. Suddenly, the guy realized that it could be his opportunity. He was once called a dragon, a monster. He was both the king and god. Such masters will gain about 50 people. This is enough to form a complete detachment. The maid managed to unite in one city people who initially had nothing to do. The guy looks at them and understands that they are all very different. But despite this, they were able to find a common language. The weirdo does not intend to miss such a unique opportunity. He intends to unite the allies and gain their commitment to our hero. A moment later, the strategist is presented and preparing to report the important news. The guy knows well what the past everyone had to go here. The old man believes that the guy can now want to expel them. But this is not true. Chechon has much more important tasks. The blonde guy genuinely begs them to become people, loyal to the younger gentleman. However, a gray man immediately states that Chechon did not turn to those who needed. The young man raises his eyebrows in surprise but immediately gets the answer. They are no longer interested in Moore. All men refuse him, advising to look for the right people elsewhere. The guy quickly changes his mood. If they do not attract them, it is better to go to the village or mountains. Why stay in the clan and execute small orders? Men can't find the answer, but one of them suddenly exclaims that they have been defeated. Everyone who gathered here was defeated at one time, so they no longer want to repeat this experience. The young guy is stunned by the fact that this is a real reason. The former monk tells how he once found himself in prison inside the sword. The guy does not understand everything, but some things are clear to him. After all, the guy repeatedly despaired, under the care of his mentor. Currently, their main task is to break the booths of memories that look like a sword. The guy, as an advisor, is not able to help. It is only the same warrior as themselves, namely, our hero. In this case, the young man apologizes and retreats. But of course, the young man is not going to just give way. He is convinced that there is another way to reach their hearts. The maid wondered if the strategist was really planning to leave them so quickly. The young man with tears in his eyes explained that he had urgent cases, so he should leave them immediately. He developed a plan to call sympathy in the maid to attract it to his side. The guy instantly gives her a gift that has prepared in advance and says it is a manifestation of his gratitude. In a moment, the guy runs away, emotionally waving his hands and pretending to cry. The girl in confusion tries to understand the situation because the boy seemed extremely upset to her. The girl asks what happened to the strategist and learns that the men rejected his offer. The next moment, the girl quickly grabs a plate with a broth. Outraged by the fact that the guy was denied his proposal, a girl covered with anger suddenly pours the broth on the ground. In a moment, the girl unpacks a gift presented by a boy. Every time Mr. A strategist visit lunch, he certainly brings with him a gift as a sign of gratitude. The girl notes that the strategist is extremely good and would definitely not ask for something difficult, so she does not understand why he was refused. One of the guests also notes the gift that the servant brought to the boy. In a moment, he runs to the guests and asks if it is really a figure of freshness. Men look closely at the pills, trying to understand what it is. It turns out that a powerful divine doctor created only 3 pills in his entire life, and the freshness pill is one of them. For the complete elimination of toxins from the body, it is necessary to reach the level of the master of perfection and undergo the process of bone restructuring. Having used this pill, you can completely remove the toxins that have accumulated. In her room, the girl stores many such pills and allows everyone to take one before entering. The man is aware that it is not so easy to get these pills. The girl confesses that these pills have already come to her. Those guy brought last time, they were delicious. She tries hard to remember their name. The man froze in confusion. Did he really bring them a powerful battle pill? They were aware that the strategist had a significant impact, but did not imagine its scale. If he calmly distributes such valuable pills to the maid, it speaks for himself. They begin to discuss and reflect his proposal. It turned out that the guy with blonde hair was watching all this. When he returns, I plan to find out what else may be interested in men to support my side. It's been 3 days. The protagonist finally was able to postpone his brother with his proposal. The young man searches for a blonde top to pay with him for the outrages he had done during his absence. Suddenly, our hero heard the noise that came from a tree, and so a stranger jumped out immediately. He cleverly and skillfully began to cut the branches and leaves of the tree, and in a moment these trees were already neat and even trimmed. The gray man looked at the result of his work. It turned out quite well. Suddenly, the guy turned to the stranger, noting that the branches were usually trimmed differently. The guy asked the old whether he was knowing the martial arts. In a moment, I replied that yes, this is true. The guy understood this. Watching the old manner skillfully controls the sharp object. It seemed that he achieved a great skill in the martial arts. These words struck the man like lightning. The guy instantly recognizes the school on his technique, but she is still unsuccessful. He was once a king of traditional fencing. His heart burns from rage. How did this boy dared to capture him and humiliate him? Once upon a time, the head of the 7 swords of Udan was an invincible mentor of the current chapter, a king of traditional fencing. After a devastating defeat from Hanshel's reconciliation, the man left Mountain Udan. To be accurate, it was expelled for drunkenness, debauch, and destruction of the descendants' pavilion. After that case, the man promised himself not to make a disorder, at least how much he was angry. However, the desire to destroy that abomination is still fervent. The guy asks not to use unsuccessful martial arts when he trims the bushes, as it can lead to injury due to incorrect QU. The man was expelled from the sect, so he has no right to arrange scenes here. Judging by bold behavior, this guy is probably the same younger master. Soon the guy intends to go to rest, because a few days without sleep were given a sign. He wished his grandfather good luck. Suddenly his grandfather calls him and asks to stand up. He does not leave the question. What exactly did the guy seem unsuccessful? The guy sighs in a businessman and states that it immediately causes. Grandpa tries to find the answer to her question. He sincerely does not understand what such conclusions arose, because all the trees are perfectly trimmed. In fact, at first glance, the trees look neatly trimmed if you do not look carefully. In fact, it's not true. His martial art has disadvantages, and he also uses it to cut the bushes. The guy is disturbed by a man, but how does he know what hidden sense is hidden behind the haircut? There are 2 types of sword, a live that saves life and the deadly that takes them away. Throughout his life, a man chose the path of a living sword. He believes that this young boy is not yet ready to grasp the basics of the Udan sect. The haircut of the bushes was invented to get rid of the extra, and the same can be said about the men's haircut. It has no drawbacks. Outwardly, the bush looks careful, but it is only necessary to touch it a little, as weak branches fall down. The man intentionally left these branches to allow them to grow. If it happened in nature, the situation would look completely different. There, weak branches would be a shelter for birds or insects. But we are on the territory of the estate of the clutter. There is no common way to go here. They will be as follows, like birds with insects. Similarly, we should do with people. Trimming the weak branches, we give the opportunity to develop strongly. The gloomy man seemed to have thought about the words of the new moon. Water always flows down, and strong always rule over the weak. But this is great when all are equal, because then there will be harmony in society. From these naive reasons, the man did not resist and laughed. On the contrary, it will only give birth to a new rivalry. In the desire to introduce new orders, many strangers will suffer during this process. By boldly eliminating the weak, we will provide better conditions for those who remain. Thus, they are forcibly introducing new rules. In a moment, the guy asks if a man is aware of different styles. Usually, each style is based on one main idea, and all other elements serve to express it. If all the styles make the same meaning, their diversity will disappear. This will turn into clones of one style, arranged only in order. The missing elements are replaced by cunning techniques, and the saturation is reduced to simplicity. They develop a unique battle style, laying their own path, and every path certainly leads to its goal. The elderly man listens closely to the words of our hero. The man also began to think about this issue. Each kind of art has its ultimate goal, the meaning of it in it. The guy cannot say exactly what the imperfect martial art of a man, however, looking at the shape of a haircut, realizes that he has made considerable effort. Looking at this bush, you can feel the quiet energy of traditional fencing. This testifies that the man devotedly cherished his admiration for martial art. However, if a person continues to apply this method, he can soon exhale. The man remembered how he heard the same words from the head of the clan. 10 years ago, the head of the clan, Nagan, spoke the same words. To grasp their meaning, he needed to spend as many as 10 years in the clan. The man did not expect to hear such words from the young man. Perhaps he will finally be able to give him the answers he needs? The man is about to ask another question, but suddenly hears a familiar voice. The gray-haired man had already begun to resent the one who dared to interfere with him at such an important moment. It was a real divine doctor, and he was walking to the boy. The man was boiling from anger because he made a lot of effort to find him. He grabbed our hero and pulled him to his office because it was urgent to check his meridians. The doctor promises to put a needle to improve sleep, but must first check the meridians. A gray man cannot get rid of thoughts about the words of this young man. It may really be excessively strained. Suddenly, a male voice is heard behind. The former monk stood before the young man. He could not even imagine that he would come across a divine doctor in such an unexpected place. The gray-haired man starts a conversation with his friend. He is now full of joy and enthusiasm because he finally found the answer to his question. The protagonist fell asleep in the doctor's office, giving a slight snoring. The doctor noted the changes to the guys. The teenager's muscles develop according to his age, and the weakened meridians have completely recovered. It is a body of a healthy person, capable of living ordinary life without diseases and ailments. If they did not know about the damaged meridians, they would not have been suspected. Now the young man looked really divine. Deo has been sleeping for 2 days. The maid is worried, but the young man is completely healthy and feels great. Suddenly, the doctor caught a familiar aroma that cannot be confused. It was the smell of freshness pills. This pill will exceed all other means of miraculous influence. No maid will even be able to get closer to this effect. Probably the family of the reconciliation somewhere hid these pills. The doctor quickly goes away, thinking that everything was probably given to him, because it is simply incredible. The girls almost ate all the pills they considered candy, and now they wanted to ask Chechon. Finally, our hero woke up and got a little in the library. However, even after 2 days of carefree sleep, he's still slightly swaying. The young man decides to take a small walk, but does not even suspect that someone is watching closely. Instantly feeling someone's gaze, the Deso asks, "Who is it?" A gray man came out of the bushes in a moment. Surprisingly, the dent noticed his presence. The young man cannot understand why their meeting should take place at night. They are not so closely familiar. Strongly seeking to meet with our hero, the man was forced to appoint a meeting in this way because he slept for a long time, and this remained the only option. The young man was amazed that the man patiently expected him for 2 days. The young man realized that the man possessed the martial arts. The young man stood in front of a huge mountain. He not only saw her, but also felt all his essence, knowing that she was unwavering. The young man suspected that this man could belong to mountain robbers, but these thoughts were false. The guy does not bother where this man comes from. The main thing is that there are no mountain robbers in this house. The guy invites the man to sit side by side, noting that today is blowing a fresh breeze. Our hero is not afraid of this man at all. If he were dangerous, the maid would not have exactly where to find it. Soon the man sits nearby. The main character is a rather unusual young man. After a moment, the gray man staggered on the ground. The breeze is really extremely fresh. However, the young man did not invite the man to relax, so he sharply rises and sits. The man says that he was much more known than the guy could imagine. Could he exceed the power and authority of the head of the clan? Of course no. Once upon a time, one man dared to challenge his father, but he defeated and lost his hand. Hearing this story, the young man's eyes were filled with tears. The man could not understand why the young man was crying, but it was because he was fully aware of the experiences that the old man feels at this moment. This damn family is definitely not all right. They want to cut the stomach, then cut your hand. The young guy sympathizes deeply with this man. A moment, and our hero grabs his hand. The young man in the soul hopes that this man did not penetrate their family for revenge. After all, his father is aware of everything in the martial arts. So if he really seeks revenge, he has only one way. It is necessary to wait until his father is about 130 years old, and then join the duel with him and win. In fact, the main character is better to just give up. Then you will surely feel relief. Usually, people who are reborn believe that they can achieve everything. However, whether it is a revival, rebirth, or past life, something remains unchanged. There is no point in looking for revenge on the family and brothers only because they have caused him a serious wound in his past life. After talking, he decided to go back to his room to relax. The man spent 10 years to realize this simple truth. In a moment, incredibly powerful energy began to flow from the man. The man was extremely happy because he finally found the answer to his question. Did this man have mastered Shaolin's martial art? He asked the guy to pass the strategist ready to accept the offer if he returns alive. In a moment, the man moves on the road. He seems to have decided to go and take revenge on our hero's father. Wouldn't it be better to choose a peaceful life? However, the old man reported that she is planning to surrender right now. The guy only shyly scratched his back. Soon the man disappeared, leaving only the words about the future meeting. But the young man doubts whether the next meeting will happen. Now, more and more convinced that the strategist has some secret plan. Meanwhile, the man has almost got to the manager's estate. In the future, when their meeting will take place again, the man will be officially introduced. He was engulfed by a strong curiosity what the world it will be able to create. Meeting the young owner really helped the man understand himself better. The men went to Khan Chakol's estate to finally break the chains that have been held captive for 10 years. Soon men stand in front of the leader of the clan. Many years have passed since their last battle, and now they have come again to challenge. The man accepts the challenge because they are worthy rivals, worthy of meeting him again in a duel. Now these men work as ordinary cleaners, but once they were warriors, so are ready for any result. Khan Chol notes that his former rivals have become completely different. They promise to reveal their secret if he can overcome them. The men immediately push the conversation and rush to each other. As soon as they grabbed in the fight, there was a powerful energy release. In fact, their battle did not last long. On the floor and walls there were traces of fight. The head was victory, but despite this, he still allowed one miss. He asks men about their secret. One of the men notes that the interlocutor himself has changed very much since then. The chairman expresses distrust and poses a clarifying question. Their eyes watch everything and have changed for the same reason. All changes have taken place through our hero. Even the head has changed. The man is going to strike a final blow to finally deal with enemies. At the decisive moment, something incomprehensible restrains him. He may have changed. The man decided to spare them. The young gentleman met his maid. They ask with interest what brought him here. The guy brought them medicine. He heard that girls now take care of those who helped them a lot. Our hero is approaching the beds where the wounded rest. It was a lot of struck by our hero, because on the beds he saw a gardener and a cleaner. The young man was struck by the fact that the men returned alive. He expected a completely different development. Men were incredibly lucky because they managed to survive. The maid cannot understand how these three came together. The protagonist asked the maid to go out for a moment because he wanted to talk to the old ones personally. Then the guy asks why the gray-haired men stayed here. They admit that they have forgotten. Hearing this, the young man seems to be transformed. A sinister smile appears on his face, and he promises to help them remember. It seems that tomorrow the young man planned a meeting with the Shaolin mentor and the head of the Udan clan. Men reluctant to share everything when the young man begins to hint, which will tell everyone about the presence of rats in the estate. After the head of the clan caused the man defeat, he left his post and went on a trip. After many decades, he returned to meet the enemy again. If this information becomes known, it will turn out to be a shame. The man was so worried that his teeth were loudly tied as if they were about to break. Another man remembered how much he got from his younger brothers because he was erased from the board that a mentor created during his life. He decides that it is better to accept punishment from younger brothers. In all circumstances, the man does not want him to be rejected by his own student. Watching the tumultuous reaction of the old, the hero realizes that he got into the apple. The man may have followed them secretly, and he came to the clan estate to escape from danger and not get a suspicion or threat. Deo releases men for only 10 minutes so they tell everything, otherwise he will expose them. At first they had a completely different idea of our hero. I would never have guessed that it could be so harsh. They hoped that the guy would be able to overcome a monster that they could not. It turned out that the main character was not as good as it seemed at first glance. Soon the boy sits opposite the chair, preparing for a long conversation. It turns out that once his father challenged the old. After defeat, he returned to Udan, where he made a mess for which he was kicked out. Currently, there are about 50 people in the estate who have been defeated by the Nagan clan. But the young man does not understand why they moved to him as flies to light. Men were in a hopelessness, so they decided to join efforts to support each other. These two tried to resist his father again, but were defeated. Now they are still out of work. And then why is our hero, which is actually a child, should take responsibility for their actions? Men do not tread why the guy refuses them to become his subordinates, because the strategist so persistently achieved it. Finance is the first and main factor for maintaining power. The men were left without a single penny. All their money went to alcohol. These elders are not even at the family headquarters, so they cannot be waiting for their financial assistance. If they want to be near our hero, everyone should make 100 new jags every month, but men are not used to paying to join someone. However, the young man firmly stated his demands and does not intend to concede. The young man also has conscience, so he is not going to take money unreasonably. If he is paid, he will help men improve their martial skills. At this point, the maids are eager for their conversation. They wonder how these three could get acquainted at all. At this time, the brunette felt hunger and suggested that girls make a little snack. The girl proposes to quench the famine using the pills that the younger gentleman handed them. If he begs to return the pills, they will simply put those who already have in the room. The stock is enough. The doctor examined the grandfather and assured that they would be able to get back on their feet as soon as they rest well. And in a moment, the girls reach out to the pills. Suddenly, a doctor appears in the hallway, who rushes to the girls to stop. With a concerned look, the doctor orders the girls to stop immediately. A man cannot understand where the girls came from these freshness pills. The girl looks at the doctor with surprise. Why does he react so violently? After all, these pills were simply given to them. Today is a good day, because everyone gathered in the right place. A strategist appeared in the corridor. Suddenly, the divine doctor grabbed a box from Chechon's hands. The man opened the box and horrified when he saw only one pill at the bottom. The doctor is surprised. Where did all the pills that were in the box? Chechon calmly explains. They were eaten. Of course, Chechon knows what it is for pills. The lid is clearly stated. The divine doctor laughs, cries, and screams at the same time. It causes a deep disappointment. The doctor asks himself, how much did you need to eat the pill so that their smell began to feel from the maid? The boy, as if nothing happened, offers a pill. However, the man does not answer. Now he is more reminiscent of the beast, that at any moment he is ready to tear his victim into pieces. Soon our hero leaves the room and asks why they vote. The blonde guy is incredibly happy to meet your young owner here. However, the Dio did not delight this crazy sudden appearance. The only thing he wanted now was to study him well. The blonde boy rushed to our hero and found shelter behind his back. Both grandparents clearly got better. The holiday managed to glory. The fair-haired boy missed our hero very much, so now he can't get away from him. The doctor treated a weirdo with distrust. His whole essence was filled with negative energy. Looking around, he immediately realized what was happening. Dead immediately realized that the doctor intends to seriously talk to this scoundrel. The young man gave this weirdo to the doctor to take his re-education and informed the servants that their work was completed today. Deo needs to discuss things with men a little. The young man does not understand what happened between the doctor and Chechon, but it has significantly lifted his mood and recharged with energy. Going outside, they quickly found the right place and decided to stay here. He asks the old man to demonstrate some martial arts technique so that the guy can evaluate her and point out possible mistakes. The man recognizes that the young man is skillfully focused in the martial arts, but is still offended by the fact that his equipment was called poor quality. And so in a moment, a gray man rushes his hand in the air. The gray man was caused by a powerful wind that immediately rose and dispelled the boy's hair. Our hero immediately realizes that the wind technique is in front of him. The wind follows the sword, and the sword moves in the direction of his breath. Naturalness is the pinnacle of the martial art of Udon based on harmony. His wisdom sword finally achieved perfection. After finishing the old man, he was hard, laying down the full. I was looking forward to what our hero would say. The young man was surprised to see, but admitted that it was quite impressive. The man suspected that the young man was telling a lie, wanting to preserve his dignity and asked to be honest. However, the young man can add nothing more. The young man approaches the sword, trying to recreate the dance movements of the old man with accuracy. It is possible to possess the sword of wisdom only if you train from childhood in the realization of the initial chaos. A young man who is not familiar with the principles of martial arts will not be able to repeat these movements. However, the Deso does not intend to give up. He insists that they closely monitor every movement. The guy remembered all the movements of his grandfather and immediately began to repeat them. The young man perfectly reproduced all his grandfather's movements, even the smallest nuances. The men watched with interest and agreed that it looks quite impressive. The first style of struck of the Sword of Wisdom is almost complete. This martial art is developing rapidly, so it is not surprising that warriors are ready to give life for such exceptional equipment. The young man thinks whether he should go on. Seeing the actions of the young man, the man only in surprise opened his mouth. Deo became so fascinated that he mastered the second style of the Sword of Wisdom. The soft energy emitted from the sword completely envelops the young boy. The sword was moving in accurate harmony with his feet, hands, and even the heart of a young man. The young man does not want it to end. He wants to continue his dance. Deso decides a little to continue the dance to demonstrate the elderly to which he is capable of. Inside, our hero begins to awaken the grain. As soon as this dance is completed, they will go to the clan again to squeeze something. Soon the guy stops, completing everything, because there is nothing to remember. The basic rule is to flow. It is an extremely rare martial art, though he stole it into the Udan clan. With each movement, the body feels easier and more energetic. Did he also squeeze the traditional art of fencing? The man suddenly exclaims and invites the boy to join him in creating the greatest Taoist school in the world. The man will take on all responsibility, and the Deso will become his head. They offer him to consider the possibility of making Shaolin the leading Buddhist school in the world. The guy convinces not to speak nonsense, asking if the other man wants to demonstrate his fighting skills, but he refuses. Deo will tell the details as soon as they pay 200 new jags. This child took away the sword of wisdom in the Chokchi, so a man cannot simply hand him his technique. The old man cannot grasp why Aura Bodhcharma comes from this young man. The Chokchi moved the other direction, mumming under his nose about 200 new jags. The gray man went to search Udan in search of 200 new jags to then go back. A man reassures his friend, assuring that the boy is a real genius, but it is not necessary to worry about it. It seems that the man is upset at all because of it. He just didn't notice what his friend saw. There is a legend known only to the heirs of the Sword of Wisdom. Mu Chokchi recalls the story that he once heard from his teacher. The teacher quickly appreciated his talent, so he accepted his students, but his character did not meet the Taoist path. However, the student tried to curb his character and even stopped beating other students. But the teacher cut him off, noting that Taoists usually do not use force against people. Despite this, from this day, the guy becomes a worthy heir to the Sword of Wisdom. Today, the teacher will share with him a legend, which is transmitted exclusively between the heirs chosen. In a moment, the old man pulls the sword and begins to wave it. On the day when his wise sword will not lift the wind, the world will shake from the greatness of Udan's blade. The young man cannot understand how possible that the wind does not rise when he waves with a sword. The teacher smiles kindly. That is why it's just a legend. The guy notices some naivety in older people. Perhaps this is a consequence that they have devoted all their lives to martial arts. The gray-grandfather hopes to find another way out, because she does not want to get involved in this situation. They will need to work for 20 months to earn this amount, and ordinary people would have to spend decades on it. But in a moment he changes his mind and agrees to leave. In the expenditure pavilion, shouts are heard. The chapter asks who filled the grossbook yesterday. This person made a serious mistake in an important business. A man with indignation reproaches an employee who cannot perform his or her job qualitatively. However, the employee does not intend to endure the accusation and decides to leave. In a moment, the old man appears again. The look of his big eyes focuses on her husband. Under the hard look of the man stops, unable to raise his voice anymore. He orders him to leave the pavilion immediately. The apology will not change anything. The head is not yet aware of this, but the man has a firm intention to convince him that this employee should be released. The man felt irresistible the anger of Stark, who was just catching from him. The old man suggested that the man take revenge on his wife, who betrayed him. He was ready to accomplish this task for a certain reward. However, the man does not need it at all because now he is annoyed by himself, not his wife. Suddenly, a thick man becomes bad, and the old man just smiles mysteriously, looking in his direction. A foam comes from the man's mouth and he begins to choke. Medical care is needed immediately. Men pick him up his shoulders and hastily to the doctor. He intended to convey it on its own, but the circumstances complicated the situation. The man carefully put a letter on the table with the specified address. Signature, Widow Yun. This is a sufficient amount to repay the debt to the head. The man thinks about the opportunity to go home. Suddenly, 2 elderly men approach the man, asking them to borrow 200 new jags in silver. The man just smiles and notes that they are not able to ask for money at all. These proud men had to find a very good reason to personally seek him for help. A mysterious man is aware that it is a solid earnings. It turns out that these men want to make this money as a contribution to become subordinates of the younger son of the clan Nagan. If these two decided to join him, then everyone who is lower than them will also go their way. He once was the richest man on the plain, but because of insatiable desire for money and his willingness to sell his own parents and children, he was called a monetary demon. No one knows how this crazy will behave when the smell of money is captured. He agrees to borrow money, but only if they bring all their accomplices. At least 10,000 nungs, though 100, the decision to grant money will only make, but only after meeting with the younger gentleman. At this point, the Deso is busy with training, as if dancing with the sword. As he returned, he immediately fascinated into the dance with his sword. Does it not impress? The girl always believed that martial arts were something rough, bad, and aggressive. But looking at the guy, he feels peace and harmony in the soul. A sword dance, which impresses with its elegance, is different from other martial arts. If it was considered martial art, the girl would certainly want to master him. The girl notes how the older maid eats the second bull, although the rule allows only one. The woman with a smile stated that she was already old and her eyesight fails. Obviously, it was a bold lie. Suddenly, the senior maid became serious. The girls realized that they may have crossed the border. The woman heard that someone was approaching. In a moment, a group of adult men entered the yard. The girls could not understand why they were here because now was working time. One of the maids went forward and noted that they could not come without warning. However, there was no other way out, especially since they had already agreed with the young master. The girl asked the guests to wait for the guy to complete his dance because he started recently. The main character is fully immersed in his thoughts and does not pay attention to what is happening around, but suddenly hears some noise. There were too many observers around, so our hero deliberately hid his power. It is impossible to allow the force to get out of control, as it happened earlier. So now he decided to bring a little new gun. I cannot understand what's going on. Recently the path of the sword was over, but now a new one has appeared. That's right, now is the time to use a nai gun. The seeds inside the guy are passionate about it. It changes color and begins to spark. Today, the world will enjoy the dance for the first time, which the guy called Cloud Sword. The guy suddenly points out that many strangers appeared around him and cannot understand where they came from. They looked at him with frankly meaningless face expressions. Chokchi's Chicky is indignant, not understanding why our hero has just done so. A man cannot understand that this was a strange dance with his sword at the very end. The demon of money repels him, asking not to shout. The man calls himself a golden king. The main character looked at the stranger in surprise, trying to understand who he is. The guy could not understand why so many people gathered here and who they were. The maids explained that these men claimed that they had already agreed on the meeting. It turned out that it was complete. They apologize for their unexpected visit, but they say they agreed to meet in advance. The young man instantly realized that they meant 100 new jags. It is difficult for a young man to believe that all these men brought money because they do not give the impression of wealthy people. However, all financial issues solve a monetary dragon. The young man still does not understand who this mysterious person is. The man has wondered if he knows about the best financial institution in the world. The man, as it turned out, is the owner of this trade guild. Our hero has regularly brought many valuable things to this bench. Finally, the deso illuminated. Their bench always maintains privacy, so the man has no right to reveal what objects the guy put them into storage. He hopes that this will confirm his ability to pay taxes. One coupon that a man received is worth 10,000 new jags, and he has 5 of them. After learning about it, the guy changed his attitude to the man. He immediately became polite and invited him to go inside. The young gentleman, of course, is not bad but has excessive weakness to money. The protagonist asks what he needs to do to seize this money. The man asks whether our hero knows the Hongnagun. Deo does not understand what the elder has. It turns out that the Cash King has the outstanding debt of revenge in front of him. He seeks to watch this scoundrel humble under the feet. Is it possible? If he agrees, the man promises to provide comprehensive financial support, no matter how much money is needed. Deso asks if everyone who stayed in the clan was left here for revenge. The crowd did not say a word, but everything was clear behind their predatory, malicious eyes. Our hero did not know how to do in this situation. These men seemed obsessed. The guy was so surprised that he did not notice how he said aloud, "But why should he be careful?" The young man is confident in his words and does not intend to withdraw them. In his imagination, these boobs went crazy altogether. The guy remembers these men who once promised to take revenge, but now they are out of work. In a moment, these strangers exploded with laughter when they were heard that they were called crazy. The protagonist is lost in guesses, not understanding why they laugh, and men, in the meantime, sound loudly, as if they were crazy. It was the funniest thing they heard lately. For a moment, they got rid of everything that kept them for years. Men were passionate about the manifestation of the wisdom of our hero. It was truly impressive. The young man changed the sword of wisdom a little, and it became an incredible breakthrough. He managed to achieve what no one could do for many years. In a moment, the man appeals to the Golden King to lend him 100 nuzhs with silver, and all around them immediately take an example from it, asking for a loan. The young man cannot understand what happened to them. All attendees turn to the Golden King for a cash loan. The main character was overflowing with information that he could not realize and process. At that moment, the Golden King named whom Dundon appealed to the young master to take his whole suite for his service. Deo tells them that he does not plan to take revenge for them because he simply does not have such power. However, the men saw in his dance with the sword the image of the future, so they rely unconditionally on him. What the young man demonstrated was more than just a dance with a sword. It was made according to the traditions of a sword dance. Did the young man really manage to recreate the legendary Sword of Wisdom, recognized as the most powerful art of fencing in Udan? The former monk goes forward, trying to explain everything with his actions, not words. And so, in a moment with a scope, it applies a powerful blow to the fist in the air. The blow was so powerful that the wind was lifting, which almost tolerated our hero's hairstyle. The man, looking seriously, asked if the guy was able to repeat the same. If the guy is able to repeat it, let him try to add to the nail energy. However, it seems elementary for the deso, because it is a regular fist stroke that everyone can make. And so, in a moment, a powerful explosion is heard. A giant funnel was formed in the ground. It turns out that our hero has just been able to recreate the art of blowing 100 steps. In a moment, the guy turns to one of the men in the crowd, inviting him to show his skills. The man, without asking unnecessary questions, demonstrates one of the martial arts that he knows well. And in a moment, the young man skillfully reproduces every technique of this martial art. Everyone is watching the admiration, impressed with the skill of our hero. However, the new moon himself does not realize how to repeat this trick. The former monk approves the guy's diligence. Is the protagonist able to repeat this because he has acquired fundamental skills? Perhaps his bold assertion that he has developed 3 fundamental techniques that allow you to master all the existing techniques of fencing not so meaningless? Kim Dundon suggested that everyone raise glasses in this wonderful, memorable event. Today a man treats everyone. They can taste any dishes and drinks without restrictions. The boy is still very early to drink alcohol, so he politely refuses. Soon all the men were drunk. They enjoyed food, drinking, and laughter. Thanks to her husband, the atmosphere was joyful, and the young man filled his glass, for which he received gratitude. Deo asked for what reason Dindin so seeking to revenge the elderly Nagun of Chon. Did the young gentleman ever see so much money that it is difficult to even count them? One day the old man woke up, realizing that he had endless wealth, and at that moment the world lost curiosity for him. During his trade activity, the man suffered frequent attacks from Murima warriors. Therefore, he decided to spend this money unconditionally. He bought rare treasures, legendary armor, sword, and helmet. Everything that had at least some legendness became his prey. The value of these items was so high that even the money could not determine it. Since then, the man has begun to actively seek the opportunity to meet Murim warriors. Everyone listens to his words with unconcealed attention. Kim Dundon took up the battle, choosing his rivals. Of course, at first, his attention was on weak rivals, which can be easily overcome. At first, these warriors did not seem to him any special, looked like ordinary people. However, the man gradually increased the bar, choosing more and more powerful rivals. His fist quickly flashed in the air, but it did not mean that he was able to break through the armor of the water dragon. When he came together with the master of the first category, his sword shone with a bright light. Hardly approaching closer, he felt a wave of fear covers the whole of his nature. The man thought that death was close, but the poison that covered his elbow only touched the warrior. It gave him a chance to win. And then he realized that even the most powerful warrior of Murim remains an ordinary person before the threat of poison, as well as he. Despite the fact that high-level masters were difficult to cause harm to the poison, they could even be overcome to an ordinary person. After finishing the story, the man immediately swayed a glass of alcohol. One day, the man crossed with the curtain. This man seemed like a real monster. The man wondered that it was necessary to start living in a different way, because even experienced warriors from Murim seemed insignificant in front of him. If the most fair swords of perfect masters are not capable of punching the armor of a water dragon, then he has no reason to fear. He even dreamed of establishing the most powerful school of martial arts in the world. One day, he came across a charm. He could not understand why this wicked appeared on the road. The man looked at him immediately and ordered him to get off the road until he had lost his patience. However, the man remained indifferent to his order and replied grossly. It turns out that this man tore his great illumination, and now he has fled from him forever. Having made great effort, he has reached a new level of skill, but now his goal is to punish the one who hindered him. By whom Dandan did not give the meaning of his words, deciding that he was just crazy. But in a moment, a mysterious stranger appeared behind him. The man did not have time to blink his eye, as a stranger knocked her helmet from his head. The stranger only easily touched the helmet, and the result was stunning. It turned out that the man was not just boasting. At that moment, Dandan used his main weapon, poison. Dozens of small needles flew rapidly to the stranger. He immediately covered his hand. Even the only poisonous needle can extend the body throughout the body. Soon the stranger will blind, then his muscles are swollen. Then all the senses will refuse and it will die. The man was ready to give an antidote to a stranger if he could apologize and recognize his wrongdoing. The man reached out to the stranger of the antidote and advised to drink it before pride prevented it. A green foam appears soon in the stranger's mouth. However, this does not care at all, and he simply spits it to the ground. This fluid is so acidic that it corrodes the stones that it gets on. In a moment, the man strained all the muscles, and the needles escaped from his body. It was incredible, because even the most prominent doctor could not remove these needles if they penetrated the skin, and this weirdo was able to do it on its own. The man was unable to stop the spread of poison, which immediately became fatal for all weaknesses. It seems that this man still has many similar tricks in the arsenal. In a moment, a stranger reveals part of his armor with a casual movement. The stranger enthusiastically undertook to tear the armor into small pieces. The man felt unbearable pain in the soul because these objects were real treasures for him. The hands of this monster easily tore them like a simple piece of paper. This was a great mood for the weirdo. Helping the stranger to relax, the man decides to release him whole and unharmed. Doman, trembling in his voice, dared to ask about the name of this mysterious stranger. The man immediately conceived the question, assuming that a stranger seeks to find out his name for further revenge. Despite his fears, he called the stranger his name, Nagun Chan. Another man wants to pay off the abomination of Kugu, the sword of the great Abunderi. Other men also share their stories about how cheated in their time. All who gathered here were real geniuses. However, meeting with the representatives of the clan, Nagan destroyed their hopes and dreams at the start. From all over the clan, only our hero has the ability to feel and understand their emotions. They may already be aware of the consequences, but they cannot seem like it used to be in the past. In a moment, the guy seizes and forcefully hit the table. The young man promises to carry out revenge that they dream of, to do so for them. Hearing these words, the present exploded with joyful exclamations. All the crowd picked up the young man in his arms, happily threw him up and glorified. Soon the guy began to gradually get rid of alcohol, which was drunk by his elders. He noticed a doctor who seemed divine and watched him closely. It can be a surprise, but a man wants to talk to him. He appeals to him to convince the maids to become his students. The doctor found maids to find out what other drugs they gave them, that blonde psychopath. The girls unmistakably recognized all the pills only by smell. In addition, they were able to determine even the approximate composition of each. He offered them to become his students, but they refused. Therefore, he turned to our hero. The divine doctor tried to persuade the servants to accept his proposal. If the main character succeeds, the doctor agrees to join him. In this situation, it is impossible to press. The protagonist will definitely support the decision of his maid, no matter what it will be. When they come to the dining room, several men lie unconscious. They seem to be ill with excessive alcohol consumption. Suddenly, a young guy notices a blonde young man here who overloads men's bodies. Dezo asks what the new moon is doing here. Chechen complains that he almost fell off until he tried to curb these drunkards. The hero liked to watch this weirdo. The doctor and the protagonist go inside, throwing the boy to continue his torment. The room contains maids who meet the young gentleman with genuine joy. At this point, they were preparing soup from soybeans. One of the maids asks the young gentleman to taste the dish. The young gentleman tasted the soup and expressed his admiration for taste. Then, almost by chance, he asked if they did not think about the career of the checkers. They strongly and in one voice stated that they always sought to devote themselves to serving a young gentleman. The doctor asks whether they have rejected his proposal only through the main character. The young man noted that a young child was no longer monitored. At this point, a blond young man with a loud cry resolutely opens the door. The guy, along with the king, comes and report that they also want to make maids with their students. Deo cannot understand the situation. Yesterday, the old Day watched the maid and concluded that they have a talent for treasure recognition. In addition, the maids were quite resourceful, so it is worth attracting them to their side. Chechen turns to Li Qian. In a moment, he reports that he appoints a girl an assistant advisor, Chechen. The girl took the exam at the same age as a blond young man, but because of the ruin of the family, she was a sad perspective to become a maid. Men are hardly arguing, trying to persuade the girls to stand on their direction. Our hero felt a headache from the information received, so he decided to expel everyone to be able to think alone. When they were left alone with the maids, the guy asked, "What exactly do you want?" One of the girls began to say that she was pleased with her life with all, but at the same time she was interested in knowing the new world. If it weren't for Auntie, Li Han could get into slavery. All moments made with a young lady, as well as those who are still awaiting ahead, will remain the happiest in life for her forever. Another maid assures that she will accomplish any task that our hero will entrust, because in her life there is only one real gentleman. In the end, the decision remained with the young boy. Then he instructs Ilkhan to consult a divine doctor, Li Qian, to the advisor and the Haiyan himself, to the old man. The girls humbly agree. The young man adds that if girls are bored or not like it, they can always return because they remain his family. These insightful words make girls cry. However, when Il-hyang will receive a doctor's specialty and start making medicines, they will all have it. If Li Han becomes an assistant advisor, many financial transactions will be performed through the Deso. And if Han himself will study from the old man, all the actions of the world will be in his hands. The young man not only works for his own future. To live happily, it is necessary to be a little greedy. The maids are well aware of the guy's feelings at this moment. After a while, a doctor enters the room. The guy tells him about the decision they made. The protagonist asks the mentor to take care of his maid and not offend them. The doctor advises the girl to relax today, and tomorrow they will meet in the infirmary. Once our hero went outside, he was already waiting for men, ready for training. Men were eagerly waiting, full of enthusiasm to start training. However, the Deso is not in the best form for teaching, to take the lessons himself, because his stomach does not keep anything. There is no person here who knew something about it. The former monk, recently magnifying the young man as a genius, has now begun to be disrespectful about his abilities. However, the situation will change if it master their martial arts. The young man needs to find a mentor whose abilities exceed the third category. The martial arts, which are owned by the local, are not inferior to the skill of the family. After all, it all depends on who uses martial arts. In any case, the best way to understand is to try and practice. The young man does not understand anything, but the former monk is rapidly rushing to him. A moment, and a powerful blow hit a young man directly into the face. Ilson decided to start with several blows. The opponent is constantly on our hero by blows, while he defends and exclaims that it is just nonsense. However, the former monk does not intend to stop. Less conversations, more action. The young man, full of tears, sat on the ground, listening to the saying that men were lining up to beat him. The former monk continuously causes numerous blows, but our hero is steadily standing all the attacks. The boy seems not even going to do anything about it. The monk asks when the hero is over and he will stop resisting. The young guy sincerely tried to hold himself in his hands, but now he no longer intends to do so. In a moment, he reflects all those blows that a gray man had previously sent to him. As soon as the young man finishes, everyone is fond of him, calling him a true genius. In the end, the young man could not resist such a wave of compliments, and his cheeks flooded her cheeks. At this point, he was suddenly distracted, and the former monk used it, causing a powerful blow to the face. The blow turned out to be so powerful that the guy rejected a few meters. The man felt as if he had returned during his youth, walking next to the god himself. The man felt something new. It turned out that he lived for too long in despair. Today, he will embody his revenge. Deo sharply waves his fist, intending to demonstrate the monk where his real place. The main character uses the tiger technique. However, the monk does not intend to give up and immediately meets the same blow. In a moment, both fists cross and two powerful energy flows occur, giving rise to a strong wind. The young man hardly withstands such powerful energy. That is why in a moment he rejects him back. This is a great happy monk, Deo thinks. Without a doubt, a man has been involved in a nunan accumulated over the last years. It was the same technique, but why did the boy only reject? The techniques are really different. The fist of a man who has devoted his life to his life no doubt is stronger than a fist of a guy who has been doing only one day. Now our hero understood why his father turned his hand to the scoundrel. The young man promises to turn the head of this abomination into a drum. As soon as the man relaxed, the young man decided not to stop and hit him again, using the tiger fist reception. Men with interest monitored their pain. They are completely worthy to try themselves in battle with the Lord. Then the guy applies a technique that can significantly increase the weight of his body. It was the same famous tiger. The man tried to strike back, but the opponent had already raised his leg for the next attack. The young guy seems to be preparing to hit him right into the skull. A smile blooms from the man heard on his face. He was able to completely change the trajectory of the protagonist. After that, the man causes a powerful blow to the enemy's jaw. It was a tiger blow. Soon the protagonist falls on the ground, thinking that it is unfair. The man came up to check the condition of our hero, and came to the conclusion that he fainted. The bearded man noted that the young man has a prominent talent. The most important thing is that the young man does not lose the desire to go to the end and never give up. Which of these soldiers would not dream of such a talent? The young master will find many things, learning to the variety of martial arts. After some time, the guy finally recovered. I wonder how many times he had time to fall on his back during this period. Opening his eyes, he saw that everyone was training and fighting each other. The young man could not understand why everyone was doing it. Suddenly, just before his eyes, one of the students fell. The man was happy to see that our hero was finally conscious. The man reported that while the guy was asleep, someone came to him. The appearance of this person testified to his high status. In a moment, the men reopened again. The young man still has not realized why they really do it. Perhaps they all unknown together. However, the monk warns not to interfere. Together, they now form a community, and it is necessary to determine who is in the house. These two do not interfere with a fight because they are at a completely different level, and it would be too boring for them. Even the battles that occur right before his eyes are striking in their entertainment. If our hero makes efforts, he will be able to surpass these men in power. If the Deso trains with frantic perseverance, it may surpass even the heavenly demon in its power. And perhaps it will exceed not only the demon, but also the god of war. From the opinion of this alone, the heart was agitated. The main character is determined to try. His cheeks are burned with a blush, and his eyes shine with inspiration. The young man is determined to take everything from life. Soon the clash between men subsided. The whole face was actually pleasing. There were so many students that the guy did not imagine how to remember all their names. Therefore, the protagonist decides not to complicate the situation and begins to name students by numbers. Suddenly, the gates into the yard dissolve, and the other brother enters inside. The guy shares the news that he decided to accept his brother's offer. Our hero cannot understand what is happening. The brother finds out the situation, reminding that he had declared war on him yesterday. However, the young man himself is not involved. This is all his subordinates. However, the brother was only glad to receive such an offer. He was very interested in Dio. When the young man wanted to personally take part in the battle, his brother could not refuse him. Having said this, he departs, promising that their meeting will take place in 2 years. All this causes laughter except our hero. He turns to them and asks, "Who mentioned that in 2 years the Dent will defeat his brother?" Boldly, without any fear, Ilson raises his hand. It was he. The guy is angry to the extreme. His only desire is to punish this scoundrel. Some saw a thirst for triumph in the boy's look, and others only thirst for blood. The protagonist does not want to waste precious time and requires all students to start training immediately. Deo is interested in the monk, which is the best to start workout. The monk recommends competing with each of his students. However, no one planned to listen to our hero. Meanwhile, the doctor begins studying with a girl. He gives her a book. Though it is voluminous, they will learn slowly, step by step. The girl ran with her eyes on the pages of the book, and then stated that she knew all her content. The divine doctor is surprised by how possible, because usually the study of therapeutic botanics lasts at least 5 years. He decides to test the girl's knowledge and asks, "What is the Astragalus huanchi?" This plant grows in the mountains or in the cracks of the rocks. Its root is endowed with healing properties. It helps to remove toxins from the body and slows down aging. The girl knows about it because she used to help her father in the small pharmacy Heavenly Grace before becoming a maid. The man remembered that pharmacy without hesitation. Although it was small, her known reputation has always caused curiosity due to the professionalism of workers. The doctor heard that this pharmacy was closed due to an accident, although it was known as one of the best of its kind. He saw his eyes immediately filled with tears. He could not help but think about what trials this girl had passed. However, she denied, explaining that everything was different because she met the young gentleman. At this point, he was brutally hit. Chechon works at the table, filling the papers when it suddenly enters his mentor. The man asks the guy if he decided to follow the deso. Is he really ready for it? Even realizing how difficult this path will be? Chechon does not see any problem in this. It is so interesting for him. He does not like to go on the way. Only the one who can pass the difficult route find out what awaits at the end. The bloody weirdo honestly believed in the younger owner. The main strategist best understood the emotions of his deputy. The guy reports that he wants to invite one person here. This is a girl whom the young man wants to transfer the position of assistant to the main advisor. Soon she will have a lot of time to give the young owner. At this point, a girl who had just received this position came into the room. She works as a maid in the deso. In her 10 years, she passed the exam, but because of family circumstances, she could not realize her talent. Although the girl is a maid, the guy seeks to share with her all his knowledge. Her name is Li Han. She is the senior daughter of the 3rd rank of Li Chonghak. The head cannot believe that he really faces the daughter of Li Chonghak himself. The man was known for his mind, but after the king he served was thrown away in just a year, his beheaded body was exposed for display, and the family was ruthlessly destroyed. And the daughter who gained glory due to her intelligence was alive. The chairman notes that today is really a wonderful day and proposes to celebrate it with a glass. The man asks Chechon to let go of the girl with him, but the guy reminds that he has the duty to take care of her. The man invites the girl to go with him because he cannot leave her on this nearby guy. The blonde weirdo is indignant at the leader, accusing him of the cheeky abduction of his student. Meanwhile, the maid in the expenditure pavilion has already been used to local customs. Undoubtedly, it is the spending pavilion head. Undoubtedly, all employees of the reconciliation are under his control, but the girl stands out among them. Who knows, maybe one day she will conquer the pavilion. Because she has a house where he can always return. They are always waiting for it. The head confirmed that Dundon had taken with him a very interesting child. The old man noted that the girl had to spend only 2 years here. If a girl manages to stay here for 2 more years, she will be able to change much of her own efforts. It has been half a year. They are continuously and hard. Each time, our hero became more and more skillful. For example, this time he managed to strike an accurate blow to the enemy's head. The man fell to the ground and our hero tested a wave of admiration from victory. There is nothing more enjoyable than struck on the head. Men can't believe how the deso became so strong. The young guy is full of enthusiasm and excitement. His eyes glow with determination and he is looking forward to the next rival. Muchokchi walks forward. He thinks about the use of a sword of wisdom, but this time intends to use it differently. For the first time, a man decides not only to act, but also to apply physical techniques. The protagonist accepts a battle rack, directing a wooden sword on the enemy. They are ready for battle. A moment, and the guy rushed forward at incredible speed. Everyone kept breathing, watching him. The guy used the secret technique of sunning sword. It is only necessary to plunge into this flow, and in the end, you will die. In a duel with an enemy who has magical wisdom, it is important to gain an advantage. The elderly man acknowledged that the guy's attempt was not bad, but he solved her and struck her with a sword. There was a feeling that the young guy is immersed in water that slowly absorbs him. This mustachioed man only threw him into the swirl in one movement. The man asks if our hero is ready to surrender because it is already clear who will be the winner. But the young man strongly refuses to retreat. For 6 months he trained to fight in unfavorable conditions. So now the Dent seeks to apply his acquired knowledge, using the swallow flight metaphor. It was an elementary cabana technique, so the man was naked for a moment. There was no way to think, because the guy was approaching him with incredible speed. The man tried to defend himself, but our hero skillfully bypassed him, jumping. The first attack was only for distracting attention. However, another attack is real. With these words, he is rapidly approaching his opponent from behind. Spectators are enthusiastically followed by his every step, tensely supporting the guy. It is striking how the Dent has been able to combine 9 schools and 5 families in one body. Everyone was convinced that the man would not have time to defend himself. However, turning his palm, he lightly applied the technique of Uvana silk palm. This feeling was quite unpleasant because he used a powerful double spiritual technique of Udan. The guy was not surprised that the enemy used double spiritual technique because he belonged to UDA. However, the silk palm was only a distracting maneuver. The old master has not yet shown the whole arsenal of his wisdom with a sword. The young man does not waste time, performs a hurricane. However, it looks like this circular blow was not scared by a man. Chokchi cannot be allowed to absorb this flow. It must be intercepted immediately. Whatever our hero did not try, all his attempts were in vain. The man was constantly blocking them. However, one of the men does not agree with the idea that attacks are in vain. He believes that the young gentleman has not yet demonstrated his most vigorous power. The gray man, without hesitation and for a moment, continues to reflect his attacks. Suddenly, the lightning blow to the sword swotes near the man, and he barely has time to deflect. He does not believe his eyes. Is it really the sun sword technique that can break everything in its path? But there was no time for reflection, because the main character was already preparing for the next attack. But this time the man could not squeeze what it was, hurricane or thunderous. A powerful energy flow flew directly on it. The man was instantly protected by a wooden sword, reflecting the attack. Judging by his reaction, they are not so in vain. Grandpa thinks, when did this young man use a secret weapon? Deo did not answer anything. Instead, he immediately took the opportunity and lightly moved to his enemy. As soon as the young man was at a safe distance, the enemy treacherously abandoned his sand into his eyes. Although this act is insidious, the monk was 18 answered the same, seeking victory. The young man behaves like a small monkey, mockingly teasing the man. And yet the young man managed to annoy the old to the edge. The elderly man was red with anger. It was his chance, because anger made the man move with unnecessary scope. Suddenly, the main character swept a shock from what happened next. A scene of even more powerful elaboration unfolded in front of him. The water is crazy. The young man felt as if he had immersed himself in the water and held his breath. He could not understand what was happening, because he had never encountered such martial arts before. In this state, the main character is not able to predict the action of the enemy. It seemed to be in a swirl of water. And then, in a moment, He gets a devastating blow to the sword on the head. From a powerful blow to the head appears a guile. Why is he always hitting his head? He could not imagine that his sword of wisdom would come in handy. He undoubtedly noted the significant progress of our hero in only 6 months. It is difficult to imagine how powerful this young man will become in 2 years and what peaks can reach. Himam himself has all this time carefully mastered the art of trade from the financial king. And Il-hyang carefully mastered the art of making medicines, dedicating a lot of time to the study of different herbs. At this time, Li-han helped a blonde weirdo, and this is the same fall. The cold winter came, and even the fierce blizzard's men did not stop training. This is how they have passed for 2 years. At the gate of the estate stood Zhong Nagan. The young man entered the room where the head was and greeted him. The young man came to ask for permission for a match with his younger brother. The head remembers that it has long given this permission. Today, finally, the Nagan will complete his workout in isolation. Suddenly, in a moment after talking about him, a guy entered the room. The brother effortlessly predicted that he would go to his father right now. They all had their own business with their younger brother. It seems that the Nagan appeared here because of his younger brother. Watching how the guy calmed down, we can conclude that closed workouts went to him. However, over time, the brother became even more arrogant and confident than before. It seemed that in his hands not a sword, but a saber. Hearing this, the brother was numb. It really was true, but how could he understand it? The guy tensed, watching his brother carefully. The atmosphere in the room was quite tense and hostile. This time, Co agrees to retreat because his older brother has already staged another match. He asks for permission at least to watch the duel. It is allowed. Suddenly, their father raises his hand and expresses a desire to join. Once, he proposes to inform all the members of the clan about this event. It is likely that everyone is happy about such a proposal, because they are fond of watching the fight. Zhong is determined to demonstrate as many audience as possible who will be the winner in the struggle for the title of the heir. Co warns his brother, noting that you should not be so trusting with his younger brother. Hearing this, his face distorted the predatory grimace and annoyance. He is not one of those who carelessly treat his younger brother. His eyes are burning with a thirst for victory. The younger brother does not understand him at all. With these words, he strongly goes to the exit. The guy silently watches the distance of his brother. It turned out that Co appeared not with the sword, but with a saber on the side. Meanwhile, Il-hyang approached the pavilion and surprised that it grew significantly since it disappeared. Another girl noted that the extension was built through the funds sent by Mr. Com Dandan. It was Li-hyang. The girls were happy with the long-awaited meeting because they have not seen a long time. Unfortunately, a girlfriend cannot be with them now because under the terms of the agreement, she should remain outside the clan. Soon the gates of the yard dissolved. The girls hurried to go inside and witness the duel. Almost nothing has changed. Everyone trained as tirelessly. Suddenly our hero came across his maid and greeted them joyfully. They have not seen a lot of time. One of the opponents tried to attack the boy from behind when he was distracted. However, the protagonist cleverly bounced sideways, not even knowing where the danger is threatening. Throughout the duel, the opponents have never been able to impress our hero on the head, which caused them a lot of annoyance. The young boy skillfully avoided all their attacks. Deo quickly got dressed and invited the girls to come. The older maid had already covered on the table. On the table is a variety of gastronomic extravaganza. When everyone gathered at one table, they were filled with a wave of pleasant nostalgia. The young man was upset that the maid did not cook beef for this holiday. One of the girls turns to the young gentleman, noting that during this time he has undergone significant changes. The guy understands it well because it would be unusual if he remained the same. Suddenly, a man breaks into the room and informs the protagonist loudly that he should immediately go outside. On the street, he was already waiting for his younger brother, Jun's reconciliation. It seems that this did not upset our hero. On the contrary, his eyes glowed with predatory excitement. The girls whisper with each other. How much did this young man suffer? A brother is already waiting for him on the street. Jun thought that for 2 years it was too little, so that the younger brother had time to change significantly. However, When he saw what powerful personalities surrounded by our hero, his views changed dramatically. Earlier, he was convinced that the battle would end before the beginning, but now changed his opinion. At this time, a younger brother came to the yard. They exchange greetings. The protagonist firmly takes his brother by the hand and offers to find a cozy place to talk, because it is too crowded here. He cannot believe that the young man has grabbed his hand so simple and without effort. When he extended his hand to CO, he immediately grabbed his saber. Deo proposes to visit the same place where his brother served him with delicious food. The guy, without waste, pulled his brother to the same place. The appetite was already aware of itself. Soon they got to the dining room and enjoyed the appetizing meal. Meat turned out to be unsurpassed. "Brother, I can't understand. The boy has only muscles, or he generally lacks caution, and suddenly the poison was added to the food?" Suddenly his brother turns to the main character. He argues that there are situations in life when you should not rely on others, even if it is your close relative. They are part of an unusual family whose clan is considered the most powerful in the world. Jong asks a young man what he would do if, for example, they were poisoning. But the Deso does not even want to think about it, because Jong for him is like a brother. With these words, a sincere smile appears on his face. The brother would not harm him. From these words, the boy's face began to blush. The brother was very embarrassed. Our hero seems to have no self-defense instinct at all. Jong came to discuss the date of the duel. The brother seeks to appoint a match for tomorrow. Hearing this news, the young man froze with surprise. Their match will continue until one of the parties recognizes its defeat. The brother clearly does not plan to participate in person. They still compete to determine who will become a successor. The brother has a request to fulfill if he wins. The rumor about the talent of our hero's maid has already spread throughout the clan. Jun's condition is simple. If the Deso is defeated, he must transfer one of his maids. Hearing such conditions, the young man was nurtured. He could not allow it to become a reality. The young man rushed to the monk and gardener who, when he saw him, wondered how the conversation had passed. The protagonist did not look for the maids who shouted after a hearty dinner. Deo announces that the duel is scheduled for tomorrow after lunch. From that moment on, everyone is starting to train actively, because the defeat for them is not an option. According to the rules of the tournament, the number of participants is unlimited. The struggle will continue until one of the parties recognizes its defeat. The most obvious candidate from the brother is a detachment that has a great traditional sword. 2 years ago, they would lose 100 and 100. However, in these 2 years, they have gained considerable experience, so they will not seem without fighting. The detachment of a great traditional sword has a fighter named Nagun Jong. If you do not stop it, the defeat is inevitable. Men thought, reflecting on how best to act. Our hero challenges, "Aren't you too scared?" The young man did not restrain them, continued to provoke them, calling failures for fear of the first difficulties. The monk barely restrains the desire to hit the boy, but every attempt is defeated because the young man cleverly avoids blows. Even if both at the level of the higher master, it does not mean that their capabilities are the same. Someone reached such heights, overcoming many trials, and someone got without unnecessary effort, as if they were walking on a light, straight path. However, the first was exhausted. In such a situation, many recognize that they have reached their limits and give up. Another master, focusing his strength, rapidly conquered the top because he was unknown to the boundary of opportunity. For example, the genius of the Nagan Chan belongs to the second type. From birth, he has a divine force that no other person has. However, our main character does not consider it an obstacle. Do men hint that they are scared and not dare to compete with him? Summarizing, it can be argued that when meeting himself at the monk would be equal to the chances of winning. In the martial arts, the Chokshi has 10% more chances. As a result, it gives it 60% of the total advantage. So it's time to prepare for the battle. The next day came and numerous viewers gathered to watch this duel. Even the advisor came here. For the Mer world, it is a real blessing that it is still in good health. Chechen was also among those present, holding the flags depicting our hero. He supported him fervently. Suddenly, the head of the clan appeared, sat on the throne, ready to watch the pain. No one was waiting for his presence. It was the god of war, the strongest warrior and the lord of the most powerful clan in the world. His presence was only forced to shake his knees. Soon the man, chosen by the judge of the boys' duel, stepped on the arena. In a moment, he loudly announced the beginning of the duel between the brothers. The crowd exploded with joyful exclamations, enthusiastically supporting the participants. The maids worried about the young gentleman, sincerely supporting him with all devotion. Finally, the gates with the creek opened, and the participants of the duel stepped out. As it was foreseen, the brother brought the most powerful combat detachment of their clan, a clan of a great traditional sword. Many were betting on their victory. Soon the man approaches the Cash King and asks whom the bet will bet on. The man decides to risk everyone and puts everything on the victory of the younger gentleman. He bet on a whole box filled with money. The old man is wondering if there is someone else who bet on a younger gentleman. It turns out that the protagonist bet on his own victory. He, along with his detachment, enters the market. People around the young boy do not believe and are convinced that his defeat is just a matter of time. Finally, the brothers came face to face. Before the competition, the hero finds a moment to turn to his brother. Many people have gathered on both sides, so the match can be delayed indefinitely. Dio proposes to draw a group battle to speed up the process. The young man provokes his brother, stating that if he is scared, he can give up the call. Hearing the accusations of cowardice, veins appear on his face. He casts a devastating look at his brother. The team of his brother was burning with aggression and thirst for victory. Their mood testified that our hero clearly bent the stick with provocation. However, one of the men laughed and noted that the younger's proposal was quite interesting. He decided to promote his own. If they compete in groups, why not choose a leader for each team? Each camp has not only to think about battle, but also about its leader. They will have to choose to ensure the safety of their leader or try to defeat the hostile. The enemy's camp, choosing a new leader, decides to assign a dent to this role. The young man immediately realized that it was exactly what they wanted. They decided that it was enough to defeat the Deso as a leader, and then the competition would become much simpler. If the guy does not escape right now, then, regardless of today's results, our hero can hang a label. Chechen watches with delight how the young guy will try to get out of the traps that they were positioned for him by his second brother. Then our hero appoints one of the newcomers the leader of the detachment. Men recall all the workouts and prepare for battle. In a moment, the man announces the beginning of the duel. A predatory smile shone on his face. He resembled a wild beast ready to break everything into pieces. The whole detachment rapidly rushed to enemies. The main character was caught by their lightning joint attack. He did not expect enemies so rapidly rushed forward at the same time. The guy approaches the monk and puts his hand on his back with tenderness, soothing him. Seeing this for the first time, the men were scared to the beast. Our hero does not believe his eyes. Can someone have such an incredible power? It was necessary to act immediately. The young man needs to give the team urgently, otherwise they are defeated. Finally, the Deso gathered with forces and ordered the attack. The opponents did not have time for the rapid movements of our hero and his team. In a moment, our heroes quickly surrounded their opponents, dividing into small groups and creating tight rings. It turned out that it was the Shaolin armature formation. The attendees immediately recognized the monk, the former abbot Shaolin. One of the attendees wept, realizing that the monk remained alive all this time. The silky man immediately caught the essence. It impresses how they skillfully distributed the detachment into 3 parts. Moreover, the Deso is skillfully located in the heart of the intersection of 3 structures, providing itself with the best strategic position. If the protagonist believes that such a minor obstacle can restrain such a powerful detachment, then is deeply mistaken. A man from a hostile team strikes a powerful blow to a young man, but he disappears unexpectedly. The man tries to understand where the young man went. Now, men from our team master wooden technique using 5 elements. However, the man remained calm and was not frightened. He demonstrated superficiality to his rivals. A man in battle, like a fish in the water, continuously strikes. Men have already changed the formation, accepting the line of the Big Dipper. Men lightly change formations, almost impossible to see their maneuvers. And in a moment, they move to the formation characteristic of the traditional sword. Breaking through their ranks will be a difficult task. Deo diligently prepared such a special gift for the elder deity. The guy decided to use the gift to win a little time. The idea was quite interesting. In the hands of a man, the glow looks less bright. The man is annoyed with the superficial attitude to himself. They are mistaken if they believe that the detachment will become weaker without it. The young master ordered their group to chase this monster. Therefore, we must justify our hero's trust and not disappoint him. Their battle continues with unbreakable determination. The protagonist constantly distributes the teams to his subordinates, indicating who to take certain positions. When the enemies come closer, they skillfully reflect all their attacks. This is a battle for survival. The great sword detachment faced serious problems. The pace of their resistance will not last long. Meanwhile, our heroes have been surprisingly well. They continuously increased their pressure on enemies. Do they risk if they leave everything right now? However, the captain orders the young man not to succumb to either fear or panic. They have the trust of their master, so they must give all their efforts. From now on, the captain gives the command to direct every effort to protect his leader. There is a somewhat risky method, but in the current circumstances, it is the best thing to do. A moment from the captain, an incredible energy flow is split. Warriors are surprised to watch their captain, not understanding what he conceived. It flows from an incredible energy flow. Did he decide on self-sacrifice? This captain was at the higher master level. The monk ordered to be even more careful, because something horrible awaits them ahead. Suddenly, incredibly powerful energy emerged behind the captain's back. It was an elder covered by a passionate desire to win. The elder inspires warriors, assuring them that the victory will certainly be behind them. Now is the time to prove to all their dignity and the right to be part of this clan. It really raised the morale. The captain ordered everyone to stay with him without any steps sideways. In a moment, the whole detachment rushed after the captain, risking his life. Our characters did not assume that they would change their fighting plans so unexpectedly. After a moment, their swords were crossing. Men were aware that they would not have enough strength for a long time if they continue to attack with the same intensity. They should stop this attack at any cost, otherwise the plan of the young owner is collapsing. The young man sends a monk and several men to the front. He in despair exclaims and asks for how long he can last. The old man will be able to last a maximum of 2 more hours. Whatever he tried, it is his limit. The guy asks the old man whether he is ready for death, adding that it is, of course, a joke. The maximum of 2 waves remains. The guy orders to start forming the first arcade. Men change their positions rapidly by knocking down enemies from the panther. Suddenly men parted, giving enemies unobstructed access to our hero. The enemies rapidly rush to their goal, our hero. They manage to take a valuable time. The young man orders the rest of the warriors to attack the enemy from the rear. Suddenly, in an instant, men, aimed at those who went behind, appeared from nowhere. One of the attackers imperceptibly used the secret technique of the Sword of the Moon, which is called Under the Moon. Another attacker was able to use the secret technique 1,000 Palms. Another attacker unexpectedly used the secret technique of circling leaves, children's petals. These blows scattered the enemy rear. However, the captain strongly urged them not to look back and continue the movement only forward. The enemies were rapidly approaching a young guy who was left without protection. The audience was already certain that the battle would end, because the young man would not be able to withstand this attack. Surprisingly, all those present, the young man managed to block the blow. After that, he jumped high into the air, skillfully avoiding another attack. However, the opponents did not give up and rushed into a constant offensive. There were a lot of them, and the Deso found himself on his own with enemies. However, despite the numerical advantage of the opponents, he skillfully parried the strikes and evaded every attack. Unfortunately, the young man still missed 1 blow. He coughed with blood. Probably he lacks power in attacks. Another opponent approaches the opposite side. The young gentleman does not plan to retreat, despite the fact that the opponents already taste the victory. Suddenly, the young man's legs are shaking and he loses balance, falling back. The captain in the imagination already tastes a sweet taste of victory. The second brother is sure that everything is complete. He returns and goes away, proudly lifting his head. At once, all the audience exploded with loud applause and exclamations. "It's just incredible!" The guy does not understand what is happening, so he turns to look at what caused the admiration. To great surprise, our hero was still on his feet. The younger brother skillfully escaped the attack of the vice captain. The enemies do not intend to stop. The guy should be attacked immediately until he has yet been faded. The gray man rushes on the boy frantically, magnifying his sword in his direction. He is convinced that for our hero it will be the end. Suddenly, the monk of the raps at a crucial moment, and with one skillful blow, rejected the sword from the target. The old man is preparing to strike the enemy, protecting our hero. In a moment, he struck a powerful blow, depriving his opponent of balance and forcing him to fall. From a powerful blow the man rejected a few meters ago. The boy complains that the monk was not too long and he almost died here. At this point, their system began to slowly break. The mustachioed grandfather can no longer tolerate elders. It seemed that the elder became a real monster. He seemed to have lost all human feelings. He, as a soulless, scattered his warriors without any sympathy. The elder was amazed at how easily our hero taught his warriors with new military technicians. Now this man will no longer surprise. However, the creation of a monster was a much more complex task than it could seem at first glance. The monster cannot be becoming, they can only be born. If you follow such a logic, the young man has every reason to become a real monster. The young man was outraged that he was being discussed just in the middle of the battle. The elder orders its soldiers to retreat. The young guy cannot understand why the order was given to retreat. This is a great opportunity. The young man seeks to unite for the attack on the monster, because together they will surely win. However, the gray old man does not pay attention to the young man and shouts to retreat. Until this moment, the protagonist never witnessed the battle between two masters. The gardener may seek to demonstrate something important to the young master. From now on, the protagonist must carefully follow their every movement. This will be the basis for his future study of martial arts. A bold man causes them to attack them together, stating that even then they will not win. The old man is set to come up with him in the duel himself. A moment later, the elder curses him with his mighty fist. When the elder copes with the gardener, I plan to take up the monk and destroy it. The struggle has already been struck between them, and the events are just beginning to unfold. Deo watches this with a surprised mouth. This is a key element of the martial arts of the UDAN school. A man, as if in frenzy, causes continuous blows. I wonder if a man can withstand such a powerful blow. The gray old man watches closely at his opponent, fully concentrated on him. It seems as if the outside world is wrapped in water that absorbs fiery balls. The protagonist was stunned by how Chokchi was able to stop such a powerful attack. The man managed to absorb such a powerful attack and even stay on his feet. Mu Chokchi feels a strong envy of the elder because of his unique talent, which others are not capable of. As he hints that the elder rests solely on his natural gift, he sneezes with laughter, pointing that the elder has this gift from birth, and it realizes perfectly. The man skillfully stirred his enemy, and it worked perfectly. The enemy was blushing from rage. Grandpa seems to be faultly crazy. Is it advisable to provoke the enemy only for him to demonstrate his true power? The man did so intentionally, trying to demonstrate something. His intention is to demonstrate what the talent becomes when it starts to bloom. The young gentleman should strive for this ideal. The elder emits powerful energy, and the gardener's words have left a deep mark in the soul of the man. He humbled such scoundrels so that they were afraid to even look in his eyes. A moment like a wild beast, he went on the offensive. The fist was a few centimeters from the face of Chokchi. Will he be able to do something? The fight between men grows into a real bloody storm. Mu Chokchi skillfully avoids enemy strikes. Every second, this is becoming more difficult. Deo is amazed. He does not see the scoundrel of Sean, so he does not understand what he attacks his grandfather. You need to activate all 5 feelings to track their movements a little. The protagonist focuses as much as possible, trying to catch their movements. Finally, after long efforts, he was able to see it. the fist of the enemy met with his grandfather's sword again. It seemed that the man cleverly reflects and evades the opponent's attacks. The young man wondered, how is it possible if his grandfather was holding his eyes closed? The enemy moved around him as if sliding on the water. The man was constantly defending, driving away the enemy. However, the enemy did not give up, constantly causing new blows. A huge wave has risen, which completely hid any movement. One day, our hero asked his grandfather how to act if it is impossible to determine the direction of movement of the enemy. In such situations, you just need to determine a new path. The basic technique of the Sword of Wisdom in traditional fencing teaches to adjust under the trajectory of the enemy movement. The guy can't believe his eyes. Lightning falls rapidly from the sky. If his grandfather did not come across this wonderful child, he would probably not be able to go beyond his restrictions. In addition, this technique is not just adapting to the existing current. This technique paves the path of a new current. It is a technique that is not limited to any templates. Its name is the technique of a stainless sword. Nagogon Chon has never encountered such unique martial arts. He is a real master, and even the enemy cannot help but recognize his power. The man expresses gratitude to the enemy for this battle. Today he has discovered for himself that there is a warrior capable of managing the energy of thunder. That is why he gives his enemy a nickname, the Thunderous Emperor. The man is delighted with this nickname. In honor of the new nickname, the man decides to show one of his unfinished techniques. Wash the lightnings in all sides. There are incredibly many. Could he really decide to apply all the thunderstorms at a time? The elder suffered. He was rushing to battle as if he had lost his common sense. In this blow, he focused on all the power of 14 lightning discharges. However, the gray-haired man seems to have not worried about this situation. Despite the fact that lightning was racing in his direction and the enemy was approaching, he remained unmoved. The man applies endless doubling. Soon their energy flows face, causing an explosion. The young man sees nothing and does not understand who came out the winner. The dazzling light dazzles it. Suddenly, a silhouette is emerging in the cloud of dust and smoke. Who came out the winner? When smoke and dust are scattered, an elder appears. Did he become the winner? The clan of the Great Sword explodes with joy. They always believed in the elder and were convinced of his victory. The protagonist felt a lot of tension, realizing that it would significantly complicate their task. Unexpectedly, the man slipped and swayed. He suddenly fell just on the floor, losing consciousness. Suddenly, a gray old man appeared from the smoke. Despite his appearance, in his eyes there was a great anxiety. Indeed, he believed that it could be his last moment. Our heroes are happy to exclaim, praising a man for his incredible effort. Meanwhile, the brother cannot realize that this really happened. None of the warriors can understand that the elder has been defeated. Deo continues to be fascinated by a man, but he does not want to communicate with anyone, because it is difficult for him to even keep consciousness. Enemies seem to not be about to give up until the last of them falls. It seems that our hero has just invented a brilliant plan on how to complete this match. In a moment, the young man acts in advance with the intention to put forward an unexpected proposal to a team of rivals. He proposes to stop the battle, because it is already clear to almost everyone who will be the winner. But do these warriors really look like those who are going to retreat? The young man understands that the respectable captain, like the elder, sought this duel. It is quite natural that after such a fascinating duel, you feel an irresistible desire to compete and more. If the captain wants to fight, let him go to a duel with that handless grandfather. If they decide to surrender now, the young man will take the task of having a match for them. If he refuses, then everything will end quickly. They will be attacked by a whole crowd. The captain thought about his proposal for a moment, plunging into silence. In a moment, he turned to his master, bowing and apologizing. The brother is not aware of what it means. After that, the man leaves the arena. For warriors, not so much victory is not so much a chance to improve your skills in a duel with a powerful opponent. In fact, everyone thinks the same way, they just don't say it aloud. If they seem, the guy promises everyone to enjoy the battle with the desired rival, and only a second later, they throw their weapons and apologize to their young owner. The older brother annoyedly bit the lip, feeling the fools betrayed his trust. In a moment, the judge proclaimed the victory of the reconciliation. Everyone ran towards each other, hugging and greeting joyful exclamations. The audience was amazed by the unexpected result of the battle. The joyful exclamations of the audience expressed their admiration for the winners. All loudly chanted the names of the winners, greeting them. As expected, no one mentioned the name of our hero. Suddenly, among all these exclamations, the guy suddenly heard his name. He stood in front of him, vigorously waving large flags depicting a young man. He was embarrassed for this blonde weirdo, but he felt a deep gratitude for him in his soul. Soon the maids ran out into the arena, incredibly excited for their young lord. The young man rejoices that his power was sufficient to protect the maid. With anxiety, they started a guy examination, carefully checking his wounds. Suddenly, a brother appeared in front of the boy, reached out and found his defeat. The protagonist, having discouraged, confesses that it is just a happy coincidence, although in fact, it is not true. Those who lose are the first to leave the arena to give the winners the opportunity to enjoy their triumph. But before leaving the arena, the brother lingered for a moment, wrapped his eyes and focused on Elijah Heine. The girl, for some reason, worshipped him respectfully. The guy could not understand what was happening between the two. The girl was scattered. Suddenly, someone threw a bag from the boy who, at first glance, was full of money. It was a cash king who, thanks to our hero, earned this day. They laughed together and enjoyed success in making money. Soon a strange blonde man came out in the arena. Today we honor the young hero. The old man promised to take care of the night, food, and drink. It is not worth sparing money. Leaders of other factions could not imagine a similar result of combat. The elder of the clan was defeated, and the captain acknowledged his defeat and gave up. For Marima soldiers, the clan Nagan is like an unattainable sky. However, today, thanks to them, this perfect reputation has cracks. The monsters reappeared, and at the head of this ominous army stands. This must convince everyone that our main character also belongs to the heirs of the clan Nagan. The news of the victory of the Dazurian Dragon's detachment over the detachment of the Great Sword immediately flew all the surroundings. No one could think that a detachment of the dreaded dragon would meet here. One man heard this news and hurried to his boss to report it. The man breaks into the chief's room, urging him to wake up because he has exciting news. The chief wakes up, suspecting that the time for dinner. He reports that their teacher is alive and is in the clutter of a reconciliation. Moreover, he defeated the Chan Nagan, known for his invincibility. It's not time to delay. They need to go to the clutter immediately to return the mentor. He just seems bold because he does not realize how cruel this clan is. They are powerless against them. Meanwhile, in the Shaolin temple, some monks were boiling out of indignation. The man was indignant that Ilsen was able to live quietly and disappear without a trace after all his crimes in Shaolina. Another monk tries to comfort him, saying that it is a true blessing. The monk asks how many years ago a guy who trained the former monk. It turns out that he only turned 13. Then their meeting will be inevitable soon. He wants to find out what this young man is capable of if he was chosen by the teacher himself. Meanwhile, our hero is trying to understand everything that has happened. People from the Military Affairs Pavilion gathered here, the physician and representatives of the Finance Pavilion. What unites them all in this place? The protagonist did not expect to have to be fed at his own expense. But you do nothing. He imagines that all of them are his friends. However, the guy cannot understand why there is a detachment of his older brother. Brother said that the captain gave him permission to come here at any time. The brother could not resist the invitation, because our hero treats everyone. Therefore, he is here too. Obviously, the brother intends to play for the previous defeat. The blonde guy notes that his brother still has conscience, because in his place, he would bring much more people. The young boy was already annoyed, and the guy also poured the oil into the fire. The weirdo is already drunk, but noted that such an atmosphere also has its own special attractiveness. He noted that everyone gathered in one place, forming a sad crowd. A few hours ago, they fought on the swords, trying to overcome each other, and now they gathered together as if they became one family. From this thought, the heart of our hero was filled with warmth. Today, Deo was able to earn 200,000. Now the Deso is calm, because it has enough money to cover the bill. The young man invites everyone to eat the dump. Everyone drank. Alcohol was pouring like water would never end. Already a good drink, the attendees were dancing. Some people, instead of dances, wanted to try their strength in a duel with the former monk. The older brother tasted one-on-one glass by another. Meanwhile, the maids discussed the battle of their young master, feeling huge pride for him. To the general surprise, the head of the clan itself entered the yard. All instantly fell silent when they saw the husband. And our hero was so surprised that he almost choked his drink. The young man was stunned by his father's unexpected appearance. Chechon did not expect to meet the leader here. Being strongly, the young man called him the main old house. Sykes' words were angered by the audience because of this, they could experience trouble from the manager. Everyone died down, only a blonde weirdo continued to seek fun. If he does not immediately calm, they can be dangerous. It is worth coming up with a plan to remedy the situation. The young man suggests that there is a way to use old tires with great benefit. However, it turned out that the man simply decided to surrender and translate all the difficulties of our hero. The young man burns the abomination with his predatory, malicious look. People begin to scatter, finding a variety of excuses. These worthless people just think about how to save their skins. Suddenly, the older brother is approaching his father. Our hero feels a glimpse of hope, hoping for finding a solution. But the brother just bows and, saying goodbye to his father, leaves our hero himself. So in just a few minutes, the yard emptied. The father, looking at drinking alcohol, notes that it is quite good. Suddenly, he commands his son to follow him. Despite the unwillingness, the young boy is forced to obey. So his father led his son to the roof of the pavilion of the head. Suddenly, the guy focuses on the distance, noticing something unusual there. It turned out that men had already agreed again, without even waiting for our hero. The doctor noted that the head appeared in vain on the holiday because only spoiled everything and caused suffering to poor children. It seems that this man does not matter what is happening. Surprisingly, it is all the same father, no matter how cool. The guy notes that today his father seems upset. Perhaps this is what made him join their holiday today. Once our hero heard that his father was more human, instantly the son approached and filled his father's glass with alcohol. The young man heard that the art of drinking is better to absorb from his father. The father was quite surprised by the act of his son. Deo begins to hesitate about the correctness of his act because he is aimed at a strange look of his father. The new moon is thinking about how to get out of this awkward situation. The young man noticed a gloomy expression on his father's face. Hoping him to dispel him, he decided that he could encourage his father at least a small smile. The head of the family was amazed. It seemed that light from his son. At that moment, the husband remembered his wife, who always smiled when their views met. The man believed that his funny look has a smile, but it was not what he thought about. Looking at the man, the girl feels sadness and hopes that her smile will be able to fill the void in his eyes. However, the man still does not understand what it is needed. After all, the girl sincerely seeks to see him happy. He felt happiness even when she was not around. She always dreamed that his baby would give him smiles. The man has never heard the tradition according to which his father taught his son to drink. The guy was amazed because he just saw his father barely smiled. The doctor distracted him from thought, suggested that you pour some more alcohol. The doctor could not see that he would see the manager in the state as it is now. The morning after the party met our hero with a terrible headache from excessive alcohol consumption. The doctor immediately appeared and advised the guy to drink water. The guy eagerly absorbed every sip of water. After a sip of cool water, the boy immediately became easier. He sought to express her gratitude to the doctor, but was stunned when he realized that he was standing with a reconciliation. He wondered how much time the brother was watching him. Rumors that this young man organized a grand holiday quickly spread far beyond. Watching the heroes' match yesterday, the young man made an important decision. It turns out that he is going to go for secluded workouts again to prepare for the Battle of Kings. Deo will also participate in it. My brother seeks victory in this battle to become even stronger. And so, after the guy passed everything he needed, he goes on. Yesterday, watching their duel was not only interesting but also fun, especially when a clear defeat was read on his brother's face. The young man's thoughts fully captured the Battle of Kings. It seemed that our hero turned into a completely different person. He was delighted, learning about this battle. It is a tournament where warriors compete under the age of 20. In each of the 4 categories of martial arts, the winners are chosen: the younger king of the sword, fist, sabers, and daggers. In the final battle, these 4 compete with each other until there is only one winner. The last one who remains on the battlefield will receive the proud title of True Dragon of his generation. This victory will give him any desire. The older brother, having won the last year, wanted to get rid of his father. The younger brother, having won last year, invited a mysterious information concerning the history of Muram. In his past life, our hero did not even dare to try to take part in this competition. Now he has become stronger, and before this battle remains 2 years old. If he overcomes rivals, he already knows what desire he will express. Our hero dreams of abandoning the title of the heir of the clan of the Reconciliation and leave him at the first opportunity. To win, he must overcome his own brother. There is no rest. The guy breaks into the training room and wakes all. Today, special workouts begin to help them prepare for the competition. The guy tries to cheer men who have not yet woke up. The young gentleman seeks to participate in this competition, so he needs to start training immediately. He seeks the help of choosing training that will produce the best results. However, at the moment, men were most concerned about how to warm up with a hangover soup. However, the monk knew well why our hero is in such a hurry. The man notes that the young man's progress has slowed down recently. This is not scary, because all the warriors sooner or later meet with their own obstacles. To overcome the obstacle, it is important not to pay attention to others. The young man has to find his way on his own. The Dio is indignant that he is forced to solve this problem on his own. The gardener advises to repeat and improve the military equipment he has already learned. Only imagining that everything will have to start again, she was ready to explode in her head. Usually, the development of martial art begins with an understanding of its deep essence. What is the art? How effective it is, and what is best suited for? First, you need to learn all this knowledge, and then to take into practice. However, our hero began the opposite way. This path, though long-lasting, is most effective and effective. Throughout this time, the young man could not immediately remember the information they need, had to focus and think. In fact, the young man has mastered many martial arts. In total, he mastered about 154 technitions. It impresses. It will take about 10 years to master these martial arts. However, the young man can be sure that during this time he will turn into the most powerful opponent. However, this method did not fit the young man at all because he took too long. Deo must win the victory in this royal battle, which will take place in 2 years. If he does not win, he is waiting for a danger to the abdomen, as has been in his past life. In this situation, the monk has another opportunity. However, the man hesitates to say it out loud, because it seems to him that this opportunity is quite incredible. The guy blackmails him, stating that if he does not share his method, then the older maid will be forbidden to see him. Hearing these words, the monk instantly changed his mind. The man without hesitation stated that he would do his best to make his mind to give such an order. He is even ready to reveal the secret of this method. The man begins from afar, asking whether a young man is familiar with stories about travelers. Travelers are traveling warriors. They do not have mentors who would teach them martial arts. Therefore, they are improved not through training, but in endless battles. Thanks to this, new styles are mastering and climbing new levels of skills. Perhaps our hero is worth testing our skills in a real duel? Is the young man's battle with his uncles and members of the clan not enough? The main character needs to find a person who is able to ignite a true morale in it. He is already considered an heir in the clan, so almost no one dares to fight him. The young man does not know where to find a worthy rival. Now he doubts whether it is worth participating in the competition. The guy plunges into memories of his past, comparing it with the present life. Deo does not plan to refuse to participate in the Battle of Kings under any conditions. The young man will definitely find the right path, and so far I suggest to work in the duels. The young man is noticeably nervous. The moon has passed, but there is no progress that a young man is very nervous. He is afraid to imagine how powerful his brother will become after these secluded training. Despite the fact that the elders were inaccessibly sent to rest, he cannot afford to relax. The guy did not immediately notice how he found himself near the military affairs pavilion, since he has decided to meet with a maid. Going to the pavilion, the boy notices a blonde weirdo who fell asleep right at the table. Can such irresponsibility belong to a person that is an assistant advisor? Chechun was very surprised when he saw a young gentleman here. He appeared to cool his thoughts. When the weirdo fell asleep on the folded pieces, one of them was glued to his cheek. The young man decided to gather everyone who in the past battles of kings was highly appreciated. For our hero, this discovery has brought a lot of benefits, so he decided to look closely. Suddenly, the guy saw something extremely useful for himself and just shone with joy. He grabbed a few sheets of paper and rushed with them for a moment. The guy intends to run to his middle brother. The man hastily pursues him, interested in what he intended to do. It seems that our hero has been able to find a way to train with maximum efficiency. Soon the young man hurried to his brother. He sought help to gain Shaolin's secret knowledge. The young man reminded his brother that he was obliged to fulfill any desire because of the loss in the duel. First, the brother is interested in, what is the young man planning on the Battle of Kings? As expected, the older brother read his intentions and realized that the guy was planning to join the battle. The young man does not intend to mislead him. Dead is set to win this battle. In other words, he hints at his intention to overcome his third brother. So the guy plans to support his brother and intend. Our hero, along with the weirdo, goes into the yard, immediately attracting the attention of the men. The young man states that she plans to visit Shaolin, and 3 of the company must make him accompany. Chechun exclaimed without hesitation that he wanted to join. Now it is necessary to choose 2 more. The monk is interested in the hero. Why is it so important for him to get to Shaolin? The young man seeks to gain experience in real battles, and Shaolin's temple is the perfect place for this. However, a man with a mustache is not sure that the temple will agree to accept our hero. They need to be intrigued and tossed such a lure, which they will not be able to resist. Almost without thinking, men decide to go to the temple. Deo plans to go on a journey, but suddenly realizes that he has not yet asked permission from the senior. Fortunately, everything was much simpler than expected. After getting permission, they went to the temple. However, the manager asked them to get some alcohol on the way back. Men have taken so many things that they seem to be planning to move. Suddenly, the nose pierces a strong, sharp, and unpleasant odor. It became clear that this unpleasant smell came from the medicines that Blondin carried. The protagonist began to regret that he invited these inadvertent with him. On the way, they pass the carts with horses moving in the same direction. Maybe join them? However, they cannot afford it, because they should get there secretly. They decide to choose the shortest way. However, there is no direct road to the temple. If there is no direct path, they will lay it themselves. The boy was stunned by such crazy plans for our hero. They paved the way among the dangers. The guy worried that he could break. They raced forward, and he was keeping behind. Chechon was constantly behind, slowing down the movement of the entire detachment. The young man did not possess such physical endurance as experienced warriors, and therefore was constantly lagging. The guy was breathing hard from the grueling path. Finally, they got to the right place. The rows of Marima warriors stood around. This is not surprising, because no one wants to be punished for the careless crossing of Hefe. Suddenly, the weirdo falls to the ground, completely exhausted and not enforced to continue the way. The guy was so exhausted that he couldn't take a single step further. However, the hero decided to find a place where he can relax, reinforce himself, and put himself in order. Hearing this news, the guy suddenly feels a rush of energy. He remembers the beautiful patio. Finally, they arrived in the yard, but he left much to be desired. The guy was expelled from a respectable yard because his status as a low-level warrior did not meet the requirements. Finally, the moment has come to the main one. The protagonist gives men to men. Dea instructs the guy to find out the financial condition of the Shaolin Temple and determine what maximum part they are ready to invest. The most effective way to get information is to act secretly. The main thing is to avoid the leakage of information. Only the HAO clan remained, and to receive their support, you will have to spend a solid amount. However, the finances for them are the last of the worries. The old man gave him a suspension with the name of the head of the most influential trading guild. On the way to the clan, you need to find out more about the black market. It is where all Murim agreements are made. He instructs Mu Chokchi to accompany Chechon to help. The monk also gives the task of finding out about the state of affairs in the temple. The man asks what the Dezo plans to do in the temple. It turned out that he plans to rob the treasury of the Shaolin temple. Meanwhile, training is taking place in the temple. Young students carefully work out the strokes. The main thing is to perform them in full synchronicity. The abbot of the monastery, Ra, expresses praise to the students for their perseverance and diligence in training. The torment of the act, as always, is trained without fatigue. It turns out that they are also preparing for the Battle of Kings. If I had to identify the most talented student, no doubt, the choice would fall on this young man. His name is Li Quan. At the King's tournament, he seeks to win the title of Younger King Kulak. He is not determined. If he continues to try, he will be able to surpass the previous leader. These words evoke a wave of anger. Does he still believe in that hated old? Are all these years in poverty not weighing anything for him? Suddenly, another monk with urgent news breaks into the yard. Men listen to him readiness. He reports that 7 treatises on the confrontation of evil appeared on the market. According to the stories, this book was lost during the invasion of the demon. The monk assures that this information is true. If this truth, the monk manages to collect all the elders. It is said that the power of this book is so great that it lifts this martial art to the top among the 72 arts of Shaolin. Unlike other martial arts, knowledge was passed on to only one heir. But after the invasion of the demonic sect, all the heirs, along with their descendants, were destroyed. A man believes that these treatises contain someone's final will. The monks hastily go to find out if it is actually true. The man reports that 4 keepers are descended from the mountain, passionate about an event like a fishing fish. In the meantime, a weirdo has already accomplished the task that our hero has instructed him. He had to pay a considerable price for his help in buying a rare book in the black market of the Hao clan market. Such a book will cost 50,000 silver nungs. A minute later, the guy removes 20,000 from his pocket and leaves them on the table. The guy seemed a little strange because he talked to his own money. It was impossible not to notice his sincere love for them. When it comes to money, it completely loses common sense. It is not necessary to worry because everything is clear according to the plan. At the same time, the monks have already received a treatise. Thanks to the money, the man purchased as many as 3 such books in the black market. It's a real luck. Did the heaven decide to give them their support? Suddenly, a monk burst into the yard, who reported extremely important news. He reported that other martial art books and long-lost treatises suddenly appeared on the market. The monks are convinced that everything cannot be so simple, and it clearly did not match. But even if it's someone's idea, it seems meaningless. It is extremely important for their temple to return what was once their property. If a man felt hostility or evil intentions, he would not risk or pay attention to these books. They only have to buy the rest of the books. We still have about 200,000 in silver. To buy all the books that are still left, they need to take 200,000. Then the main monk orders them to go out to borrow money immediately, but be sure to get these treatises. However, one of the monks is very concerned. Something clearly not that. It seemed as if someone knew exactly what the limit was able to spend Shaolin, but the man immediately cuts off this opportunity. It is even difficult to imagine that such a clever plan can be done by someone else. The former monk still hesitates whether he should do so. Our hero will gain considerable wealth, and the temple will finally receive vital treatises. Chechon is finally ready to go for a task. Time it's come. They sowed plenty of baits to collect all the fish in one place. The moment has come to throw a bait for great prey.